this was supposed to be just
Yeah.
an unqualified blowout. I mean, the
Yeah,
spread was
walkover.
like 17-0.
Now, mind
The
you-
Colts were considered invincible.
Now, mind you, what was so incongruous to me is even as young as I was, I'm sitting there looking at this swashbuckler. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, he was a swashbuckler, and he's ruling the roost. And his coach made Earl Morrall look like Bad Bunny. You know? I mean,
Or maybe
Weeb
Sam Smith, yeah.
Weeb Eubank was about, he crew cut,
Yeah,
a
he was
little
old school.
overweight,
Yeah.
and just, nothing but business. I mean, he even made Shula look
he
loose.
figured something out there that outfought Shula.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
As brilliant as his career was, I don't think Shula ever got over it. I detected that the many times I interviewed Don Shula, and the subject of Super Bowl III would come up, and he would look at you like, listen, DeForest, did you have to bring that up, huh? Did you have to mention the zit on my forehead? The minute we sit down at dinner? Huh? First date? That's it. All right, good morning, everybody. A post-Super Bowl Degenerate Friday. And a lot of people are scrambling, thinking, what am I going to do till the football season? There's plenty of action to bet on, and we know that for a fact. It's being promoted heavily by virtually everybody. Everybody wants in on the action. Major League Baseball is going to tell you to bet on all of their games because they're going to go faster now, so your money isn't going to have to linger as long in limbo. As the pitch clock is going to be well enforced, the balk rule, they're going to bring that back into focus. That's great. No more getting away with murder on these balk moves that are being committed by pitchers on virtually every play. It's kind of like holding in the NFL, right? Guy looks here, he looks there, he jerks around, he scratches his ass like Rihanna. Unbelievable. So you can bet on baseball. Baseball is kind of a cool bet if you're betting parlays. That would be an open defiance of anything that the professor believes in, which is don't fuck up a winning bet. And he's absolutely right about that. There's no question that he is dead on. That degenerate's desire and fueled entirely by self-sabotage. Always you find a way to complicate the matter, right? You win 2 out of 3 games and you still lose your money. Think about that. But you were getting 6-1. Now, the trouble is you would have been getting even money on the 2 games that you won, and you would have won money for the day had you just gone ahead and bet the games individually. But no. Everybody's trying to make the big score. All right, that's why I like horse racing. As Mike Mayo says, the Gambling Gourmet will join us later on, borrowing a theme from the great, the brilliant. I mean, you talk about a gambler that was way ahead of his time and had tremendous discipline. I watched this man sit in the race book while I was betting screen-to-screen action in Las Vegas, and he would just sit chilly and bet his pick 3s and his 1 pick 4, and if he lost, that was it. He was done for the day. All right? Bet a little to win a lot. That was Eddie Kaplan, fabled sports announcer, till the last West Coast score is in. That was an innovative way to approach doing sports talk. Imagine that. We used to have overnight shows on the radio, Lubie, that were popular. Shows that began at like 10 o'clock at night, and they were popular. A guy would get off the air at 2 in the morning. And, everybody knew who they were, these announcers. And now you barely have, what do we have? We have 3 sports shows in town. That's it.
That's it.
On the radio. Not all of them necessarily of the, I guess, look, they better be good, right? They're the only 3 guys in town that have shows. All paired up teams, although Joe Rose is kind of an individual, but he's had my buddy Zach Krantz working with him forever. And then you have these tandems, and that's the status of sports talk.
By the way, did you know that?
Oh, is he not doing it? I saw that he got a new job, but I figured that was just an additional kind of the way they treated you, Lubie, where it wasn't enough that you were working as a producer for free. Yeah. So they also made you like the director of all digital media.
No, they took him. It wasn't. They took him off that show, and he just does whatever web thing he does. I don't know.
Is that really boring? I don't know. I wouldn't know. That would be a job I would never be offered because I know nothing about
I think it's what we're doing, but then why would you do it for them? I do it for myself then.
Well, I mean, there's probably a salary involved and maybe some minor benefits, which continue to kind of depreciate as time wore on in the radio business. Used to be a good thing, right? You get a job there, you had health insurance paid for, and 401k contributions being matched. Those were the days, Libby. Now it's a mad fucking scramble. All right, a lot of stuff to get to on the program today, and we will feature the Greek. That was a Greek pounding it on. He should be congratulated. I mean, we should, definitely have him on the show today just to congratulate him on sticking to his guns. He did not hedge.
Yes.
He had the Chiefs before the season started. And he said, you know what I'm doing on the Super Bowl? I'm pressing it.
Yes.
Right? Press my hard ways. They just came in. You're thinking the guy's not going to roll another pair of fours for an hour and a half. Be the next time you see one. Meanwhile, like a dozen eights will be rolled in the meantime. And you're going to be losing every time. That money's just coming right down. Put me back up on the hard eight. Press it. Just press it. He pressed his bet, and that turned out to be very fortunate for him. As there were some people that actually cashed on the Super Bowl. There was a little line at the sports book there at Harris Lubie of people cashing tickets. I would assume most of those were prop bets because I don't know that anybody besides a handful of people had Kansas City in the entire city. Kansas City, the winner of the Super Bowl. I did want to get into also some Phil Mushnick. His recap of the Super Bowl is classic today, naturally highly negative, and pointing a very, very fat finger in the face of Roger the Phony Goodell. He hates Goodell, Mushnick. I mean, nobody. This is kind of like listening to CNN during the Trump presidency. Not a lot of positive stuff is going to come out about Goodell. You would rarely see a sentence in a Phil Mushnick column that said, wow, what a brilliant job Roger Goodell is doing as commissioner of the National Football League. Not many people could do a job like this and handle the immense pressure that goes along with, being in charge of this much money and financial wherewithal. But no, he is unlikely to write anything flattering about Roger Goodell. In fact, pinpoints a bunch of stuff. I guess the big controversy was about the field, Lubie.
Yeah,
the field conditions. Everybody was slipping and sliding. I didn't really notice it so much because, I was paying attention to the game, but I wasn't listening to the call or anything. So you notice I haven't been critical of Greg Olson. And Mushnick even said he toned it down a bit, but still was ridiculous.
See, I thought he was good. I told Segredo Wednesday. I thought they both
because you caved into Segredo. I mean, you did. He
well,
loves
I don't like Romo, and I'm never gonna like Romo, and he likes Romo, which I'll never understand. But they did a good job. Burkhardt and Olsen and
they were all right. Yeah.
Except for the holding where Olsen sort of had no idea what he was talking about. Like he openly said, "Yeah, it's a hold," but you can't have "yeah, it's a hold," but that's zero sense.
All right, we'll dig this. This is Mushnick. And he's been particularly harsh on Olsen. I don't know that he has an opinion on Burkhardt. Seems to be somebody that's not, gonna, sort of, arouse a lot of negativity. I mean, he seems okay, right? Kevin Burkhardt. I don't know what he does that's any different, better, or worse than anybody else. Seems all right. Yeah. The media's critical acclaim bestowed on Fox analyst Greg Olson before and after the game was befuddling. Befuddling. And I'm not easily fuddled. This is Phil Mushnick's column here today. I was just reading this. While Olson seemed to cut back on his endless, needless, and often redundant speeches, he still left us looking at the TV, our heads tilted like that old RCA radio dog. As Philly drove for the first score, Olson emphasized the value of playing with the lead. That's always a good one for an announcer, right? You really want to put a score on a board first. As if it would be better to be in a losing position the entire game. Right? I mean, most people could figure that out. Playing with the leads, which could mean that it's better to be winning than losing. All right. That's Mushnick also. He's on the same page as me. And he identified another first down run with his legs, while several plays were made as a result of a process as opposed to the play. Was he doing that? Well, it's a process. I don't know. An obvious holding call as he's clearly engaged there, huh? And he declared every ball that winds up in Patrick Mahomes' hands, the better for the Kansas City Chiefs. Thus, Olson was in favor of snapping the ball to the quarterback. I mean, these are pretty meaningless statements that you're making. I mean, you're trying to enhance people's enjoyment of the game, and you're telling them, hey, it's good if you snap the ball to the quarterback. I would think that would be a favorable thing every time. No, Lubie? Unless you're running a Wildcat there. Where's Ronnie Brown? Worthwhile analysis escaped him and Kevin Burkhardt, especially when a large, silly graphic noted that Philly had a huge time of possession advantage. That was when to say, but KC scored on a Philly fumble, and Philadelphia had consecutive possessions, which Philadelphia did dominate that first half. They had a huge advantage, and I'm not sure that all of that was predicated on the fumble play because that gave them one extra possession, but they seemed to hang on to the ball for I would imagine those numbers were extremely out of whack.
Yeah, the time possession was insane.
Here's the other thing, you would rarely hear this unless Brandon Lang was doing the game. And it goes like this. So this was another one of Mushnick's takes that I thought was worthy of repeating here. This one's tough to write, but unmitigated baloney is tough to digest. All right. The continued canonization of KC coach Andy Reid as the team's father figure, mentor, personal problem solver, and guiding light was more standardized media nonsense. You know where this is going, right? Going right into the family here. Saying nothing before ignoring hard truths. Hard truths. In 2012, Reid lost his oldest son, Garrett, to a heroin overdose. Another son, Britt, one of Reid's coaches, recently was sentenced to 3 years in prison for leaving 2 children injured, one in a coma, in a 2021 DUI in which he'd been drinking and on prescription drugs. He crashed into 2 parked cars. In 2007, Britt and Garrett were sentenced to 8 to 23 months for what a Pennsylvania judge characterized as running a drug emporium out of the Reid home. Also in 2007, Britt was in a road rage episode in which he allegedly pointed a gun at a man. A lawsuit settled the case out of court. Again, saying nothing before hitting us over the head over and over again on the all of the NFL networks with the same bag of horseshit about Andy Reid being this wonderful father. I don't know. I mean, he's
a wonderful father. No one said he's a wonderful father. Who?
Everybody talks about it. It's kind of like the Tiger Woods thing, right? Where a tiger could do no wrong. And it wasn't like he was the greatest golfer in the world, but he had to be the greatest human being in the world, which he clearly wasn't at that time. Maybe, or whatever. I mean, the pressures of being Tiger Woods, different people react in different ways. It can't be easy to always have people just absolutely hunting you down under, you can't even go to take a piss in a porta stand without somebody having a camera in there. I understand that. And, I think it can make things difficult for somebody to always seem to be a nice guy. But Tiger's, actions did not justify this opinion of just human royalty that everybody had in terms of his character and his persona. He seemed to be just a blatant phony, which is what we later found out. Now, I believe he's had some kind of epiphany and has kind of turned things around a little bit because he seems like a much kinder, gentler Tiger Woods than he was at any time. So when he stopped winning, it seems like, and now found out that, hey, I just like playing this game. And he's all the rage of the sports pages and the sports news because he birdied the last 3 holes at Riviera. That's in Los Angeles, and it's down the Genesis Open. Used to be the LA Open. I used to cover that event. Who was my go-to guy there? And he was my go-to guy later on when I moved to Miami. Andy Bean was always the easiest golfer in terms of getting an interview. Now, he was a more prominent player there at that time in the 70s when I was writing sports for the Ontario Daily Distort. And we used to go cover I would have to run down to Riviera and get some kind of feature story. And it was always, hey, Andy, you got a minute? And we talked about the farmer guider, Andy Bean. And then he also had done well at Doral. So when I moved here to Miami, it was like, hey, Andy, you remember me from L.A., the kid from the Fontana Herald News, Daily Report? Oh, yeah, sure. But always a very good low-key guy. Anyway, that course, has been a good proving ground for a lot of players over the years. This Max Homa was leading the tournament at -7, but you probably won't even find that in the sports section today because Tiger birdied the last 3 holes and ended up 2 under par, 5 off the pace after 1 round of the tournament. And nobody knows how, the big thing with Tiger Woods is it seems like he's capable of playing some decent golf, but can he sustain it? And he's got all kinds of problems. He's got, how long does this plantar fasciitis last? Is it chronic? I don't know it to be chronic. Do you? I mean, players get it. You could see where it could recur, but does it last for years? I don't think so. Do you, Lubie? At what point do you just take the juice right in the heel there and get the cortisone shot that would get rid of that for a while?
Like it does go away. It is the kind of thing that can be there a long time. I've never had it, but all I've heard is bad things. Like
I had it. It's terrible. It's something that you really don't want. It would be very debilitating for anybody that was trying to play any kind of a sport. I mean, forget about it. You take a running step, you feel like the bottom of your foot is going to fall off. I mean, and I wouldn't say it's excruciating pain, but it isn't pleasant. Plantar fasciitis. It can happen just from walking barefoot on tile. That's kind of, I think, how. Well, I have Jew foot, which is a very flat foot anyway, which is inclined to be disturbed by virtually any change of lifestyle or environment. So I was walking barefoot on the tile floor. I didn't have one before I moved into the old Defo household there, and yeah, right away it flared up, unbelievable. And I remember going to Dr. Holland Selznick, who I saw last Friday, Lubie,
Oh,
as I was
nice.
leaving the track. I was leaving Gulfstream after the Mike Mayo lunchbox show, and I'm in the parking lot there a few hours after the show because I was punching away for a while. And who's getting out of his car? The great Heat team physician for the Miami Heat, Dr. Harlan Selznick. Real good guy. He was the guy that examined me for the plantar fasciitis. He said, as I still remember this vividly, I'm in his office, and I'm not one to want to endure just torturous procedures in doctors' offices without any kind of anesthesia. He literally just looked at me straight up and said, one of two things can happen here, DeForest. I can give you a needle that is going to send you through the ceiling, or you can try to rehab this, and you'll be back in action maybe in a few weeks. What do you think I opted for?
Part 2.
Yes, of course. I didn't care how long it took. I don't feel like being shot through the ceiling of that medical center there that's on the UM campus. Get the hell out of here, man. Unbelievable. But anyway, so that's inhibiting Tiger Woods, his plantar fasciitis, I guess. He's got all kinds of problems. I don't know that his leg ever really totally straightened out, but the golf world abuzz because Tiger is back in action. How much money will go up in smoke betting Tiger Woods to win tournaments? I love it when he's involved. I really do. I hope he goes in the Masters. Yeah. You start getting like 8-1 on Scotty Scheffler, some guy with a legitimate chance to win the thing, and Tiger's like 4-1 because every schmuck in the world thinks some miracle's going to happen, like it did. What was that? Was that 2020?
I think it was like 3 years ago. Yeah.
Was that recently that he won the Masters?
Yeah,
Wow.
It wasn't last year. It was like 3 years ago. Like the last 3 years, he struggled mightily.
He has barely played. It's kind of nice to see a guy like that out there.
Yeah, it's fine.
You have to figure he literally is, maybe at this point playing for the love of the game. Does he really feel like he's going to beat everybody? He says that. I think every athlete needs to believe that. The fighter that comes in, like I say, the nondescript schmank from the Midwest that's come in to take a beating, has an upside-down record, and he's going against a prospect who's 19-0. And, he's sitting there with a record of 15-21 with 4 knockouts. And the knockouts came against his sister, his mother, his brother, and that was it. And the guy has no chance. But he goes into the ring saying, hey, you know what? I believe I'm going to win tonight. You have to believe that, right? I mean, there's no point. Like we say on the Believe podcast, you got to believe. It's Tug McGraw time. So I would think that Tiger Woods actually thinks that he has a chance to win these things. Do you believe that, or is he just out there because he enjoys playing at this stage?
I think he somewhere believes he can win. I don't think reality dictates that. I don't think anyone. My problem is people who bet on him. I'm like, I don't think there's anything wrong with watching him and like going, oh my god, the end of Tiger. Let's take it.
I'd be reluctant to bet him to finish in the top 10, even after there's 2 under. Put him. I guess he's not that far off the pace, but I think there are a lot of guys in between him and Max Homa, who is the leader, who they're trying to make into the next Jordan Spieth.
Okay.
The next guy, or Justin Thomas, the next guy that's going to take over the game for a while. Max Homa, Homa, as in Chief Nakahoma. Now, I unfortunately, because, I mean, this is part of a byproduct of being a degenerate, is that you formulate, certain biases and certain negative feelings about people that you lost money on. And Max Homa happens to be one of them. Because I used Max Homa in one of my pools when I saw that he was an up-and-coming guy, and he bombed. I mean, he missed a cut. It cost me, I don't know, I mean, probably some kind of cashing position in the tournament. If that guy makes the cut, all of a sudden I'm in the winner's circle, and without him. So I have, just an unfortunate prejudice about the mention of the name Max Homa. In other words, there's like vomit right here, Lubie. Even though he seems like a real good guy. So I'm going to start rooting for him because it's time I got over that. How long do you carry a grudge when you've lost a bet, Lubie?
Oh, God, you guys seem to never let it go.
You're right.
Fester.
Yeah, you'll be with some guy at the track, like my buddy, Piscataway Ray. He's still bitching about something that Mike Smith did in 1967 when he was like a 9-year-old. I don't know. Smith's like 70. He's still writing. Unbelievable. obviously was a quality rider, and I happen to know him to be. I mean, maybe I'm off because I only had a peripheral thing. I had a couple of sit down interviews with Mike Smith for a lengthy period of time on various television shows I was doing, and I couldn't have been a nicer guy, right? Real down to earth for a guy that has his level of accomplishment in any sport. And you'll find out about people in horse racing, which I did want to mention. And it seems like we've been on an incessant death watch lately. Does it not, Lubie? I mean, it's just awful. Everybody's checking out, including Tim McCarver, who occupies the back page of today's New York Post, which you would think, why is that? But he did do Mets games for several years, I think like 6 or 7 seasons, Tim McCarver. And I was a big Tim McCarver fan. I loved McCarver. Not just, his announcing was fine. He maybe got a little bit bizarre as time wore on. I mean, with the soil analysis, I was talking with our good friend Andy yesterday via a Facebook Messenger, and he mentioned McCarver checking out, and my immediate thought was now he can do soil analysis from the other side of the ground. Remember, he used to go into that, man. Well, they got that red clay mixed in with the such and such soil, which they've imported in from Egypt. I'm like, what? What the fuck are you talking about, man? He was trying to, explain why a bunt went foul, and he would get into that kind of detail. But he was a real good ball player. A lot of people don't remember him for that. I do, because I was briefly a Cardinal fan at that time. I don't know if it was because I was a running bandwagon jumper and the Cardinals, but they had a great team. I really liked their team. This is circa mid-'60s when they were dominant. I love Bob Gibson. Yeah,
Gibson must have been fun to watch.
Well, I mean, think about it. Look at the infield they had. They had Ken Boyer at third base, the brother of Cleet, who was a much better hitter than Cleet Boyer. Probably, I mean, I don't know that anybody was as good a third baseman in the history of the game defensively. People are going to think I'm nuts, but I thought Cleet Boyer was like a brilliant defensive player. I mean, maybe because I was only like 8 or 9 years old at the time, I might need to look back and maybe I missed something. But I put him in the same category defensively as a Brooks Robinson. Greg Nettles later on impressed a lot of people. Who was the guy that had Ken Caminiti, had the drug problem? But man, he was brilliant around the back there.
Scott Rowland is known to be one of the great.
A lot of people like Mike Schmidt as a defensive third baseman. I don't know that I noticed that as much as I probably should have. But Ken Boyer was great. And then you had Dick Grote, who was a legendary sports figure. Probably doesn't get mentioned enough because, he was a superstar college basketball player, in addition to being a brilliant, hard-hitting shortstop and, good defensive player. Julian Javier at second base and the great Bill White over at first. McCarver behind the plate, Gibson's pitching. And in the outfield, you had what? Lou Brock in left, Kurt Flood in center.
Jeez.
And did you also have, later on, Roger Maris ended up playing right field for him. But that team.
What team had Musial? Musial wasn't on that team? Was Musial later?
He was earlier.
He was earlier?
Stand man. Yeah, yeah. A little earlier than that.
Okay.
But, I guess this was late 60s.
Okay.
But McCarver was great. He was a great ball player. And, a hard-nosed catcher. I don't know that he was quite Johnny Bench. But, he was maybe the poor man's Johnny Bench. Not as much power as Bench, but, I don't know. It's not like a dumb comparison. Who's Johnny Bench?
No, Pudge might have been.
It wasn't even Smokey Burgess. No, he was a real good player, an all-star caliber player. So we'll miss him. And out of the horse racing world, this was a guy I got familiar with, and I'll never forget the Proud Truth takedown. I guess it was Chief's Crown. What was the horse that won the Flamingo at Hialeah Park one year? And Chief's Crown is in a stretch duel with a horse called Proud Truth. They were, very short-priced favorites, and the rest of the field was a bunch of long shots. And these were two really prominent 3-year-olds that looked like they were destined to make some noise once we got around to the Triple Crown races. And, of course, the Flamingo was one of the brilliant preludes to the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes. And John Veach, I don't know if you ever familiarized yourself with a guy named John Veach, was the son of a fabled trainer and carried on the tradition in brilliant fashion. And he got put up with Proud Truth in just one of the most bogus DQs in the history of sport, where they took down Chief's Crown because of intimidation in the stretch. Like Chief's Crown looked over to Proud Truth and said, "Yeah, your mama's ass is on fire." I mean, what is that? Intimidation. Later, actually, the result was reversed in court. And the Chief's Crown people ended up getting the purse money, the winning purse money, because everybody knew that was one of the worst calls since Donald Trump picked up the phone and told that guy in Georgia, "All I need is 11,000 votes. Can you find them?" They're making a big deal like Trump might get indicted for that. How do you not get indicted for that?
And like there's a list of like 80 things that every
He's on the phone telling the guy to rig an election.
there's like a list of so many things that any human, even rich people would have gotten screwed by, and he gets off of all of them. I've given up hope on that one.
It's crazy, right? How is that possible? They're saying, "Oh, well, some people lied to the grand jury." Hello?
Wonder.
Now even the Fox News anchors are coming out. I guess it's coming out that they didn't buy it either about the fraudulent election. They were just letting out a lot of hot steam, based on the fact that it would stir people up. The world has really become a bizarre place.
Yes.
All right. So what did you think? I mean, did you hear a lot about this field controversy, slipping and sliding?
Yes, it was. You didn't watch the game closely because it was a disaster. The field sucked all game long. Guys were falling for no fucking reason. It was
maybe it's because I was falling down at the time from the free cocktails at the park.
You were doing your own thing. I mean, it's fine. Like if you watched the game here and there, you wouldn't have noticed it. But watching the game, it was bad. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, and they kept talking about it, and it was both ways. So it wasn't like it was unfair for either team. It was just it screwed the game up. Like it was unnecessary.
What happened to George Toma, man? The guy, was supposed to be the greatest groundskeeper in the history of sport. I think they should get my man Kevin from the Pompano Municipal Tennis Center. This guy, I mean, you walk out there, you're thinking you're taking center court for the opening match at the French Open. It's fantastic, right? They may as well just put Roland Garros right there on court 7. And let me wind up against Dr. Jerry. Speaking of sevens, a couple of 70-year-olds out there trying to pound it out in singles. Tennis, I guess, who was it? Was it you that asked me about who's in this tournament in Delray?
Sarny pulled a
Sarny,
on his behalf.
It actually has a fairly distinguished field. I think, not that they have had, horrible fields, but, you would have to say it's usually like second-tier guys, which is no disgrace. Okay, so you don't have Alcaraz in there. Rafa's injured right now, but, I mean, you're not going to see Nadal playing the Delray Beach Open. But you are seeing a lot of top guys, including, many good Americans. Taylor Fritz is probably the number one American player. He's still involved in the tournament. I think, he won yesterday. That guy Manarino, who I mentioned I saw last year when we went out there, he had a win over J.J. Wolf, who's an up-and-coming American player who had a decent showing. I think he got through a couple of rounds of the Australian Open. Tommy Paul is he made the semis of the Australian Open. American player is kind of coming into his own. He's still involved there, and he was a winner. Shapovalov, Denis Shapovalov, the Canadian, ended up losing yesterday and got knocked out. And they have this guy Kekmanovic, who I don't know if you've ever seen him play. Short guy, kind of looks like who's the actor Jeremy Renner that just got hurt. He's got that kind of look, like a Jeremy Renner kind of look, like a short guy but tough as nails, man. And so he's in there. So I'm definitely going to have to hit up my man, the Foss. Carl Foster has been doing the announcing there, does all the interviews and all of the in-house stuff. I think he's going on 30 years of doing it. Carl the Foss Foster.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff locally in the media here.
It was on 940 for a little bit, yeah.
It was on 940, right? He had some time that he was on the air there. Actually, as a morning show host, very briefly. But, naturally they put the screws to him and kind of, I always loved the way radio would set guys up that were buying time, trying to make it. And that was the only reason we were successful, is we weren't paying for this time. And it's sort of insulting, I guess, to some people where they go, "Hey, what are you doing? You buying your time on there?" Which was an okay thing if you could make it work. But unfortunately, it was too prohibitive. If you had to pay the station the kind of crazy money that they thought their time was worth, there was no way that you could make a profit, right? I mean, your man Andy Slater went through that, and so did the Amigo and Diz.
Yes.
Impossible. And wasn't there somebody else that, tried to do this same sort of thing? That had a morning show, and they were buying time, and it was very short-lived. Where who was the guy? He was a salesman. He ended up like running for some kind of representative. I can't remember his name, but he was on a show with somebody, and they ended up hating each other. That happens a lot when you're buying time, because you always blame the other guy because he's not doing his job, and you're doing all the work and you've made the only sales, and everybody's like, well, what the hell are we supposed to do? But when the station was charging you for the time,
Yeah.
it was almost impossible to make something happen. I give it credit to Eric Brandon and the fishing show. They've been doing it for a long time, and I know in the beginning, because of a very unscrupulous salesperson that they were dealing with, they were probably getting whacked pretty heavily for the time.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is unscrupulous too kind of a word for that guy?
I was gonna say unscrupulous definitely isn't too harsh. That's for sure.
Hey. All right, John Veach. Yeah, Andy. John Veach, the trainer, 77 years old. He checked out. See, when I see these numbers, they're a little bit alarming to me.
Yeah, it's not great, but
Veach was in good shape, right? I mean, he was a slender guy. He was never like some giant fat guy or anything. And obviously extremely active. I mean, these guys do a lot of marching around there. These trainers, and they're up in the morning and they're healthy. They're outside. Some of them, he may have even been one of those guys that I don't know that he worked horses, but he might have been like D. Wayne. Gets out there on horses and is on the track. A lot of trainers do that. So I think he was in pretty remarkable shape. Always nattily attired, man. This guy was a sharp dresser, and very kind of forceful in the way he presented himself. A good guy. I interviewed him many, many times. But 77, Lubie, that's 5 and a hook away. 5 and a hook. Is that all I got?
I would say no. So we'll just keep on trucking and not focus on things of that nature.
How vital is that walk of life now at this stage? Whoever thought that walking would be the lone, very, very a tepid thread that you had going to just being alive, period. That's crazy, huh? Very enjoyable at night, though, here. I went out last night about 7:30. Very, very enjoyable. I mean, especially with those beach breezes and things like that. I mean, we do live in paradise, Libby, here in South Florida.
Wow.
All right, the Greek's coming up. He made a big score in the Super Bowl. I don't know if he's going to admit the, largesse of the amount of cash. But, I mean, as degenerates, you really have to applaud this. And I'm going to give him a round of applause before he even comes on here. Because, our big Shakespearean debate is always to hedge or not to hedge.
Andy said you have to hedge. Andy, last week, when the Greek came off, he's like,
on a futures bet. Yeah, I'm hedging every time.
Did you want to make sure you win? It's stupid to lose, but the Greek went the other way. I think he then bet on the
pressed it. Press my hard for. I love
it. Good for him.
Yeah.
Nice to see he's back, all involved.
Kind of like our buddy Marty the Party Sacks, who presses the hard ways when he hits. It just parlays them. Not even press, parlays them. It's not like up at the 50. It's $450. He's got $50. He hits a hard 8. He's got $450 on top of that. Boom. And he just lets it ride. A maniac. But if you hit again, Lubie, at 9-1, you do the math. That's like what, 3,800, something like that? Unbelievable. So that's where the Greek is coming from. No hedge. Parlay my action. And he's going to join us in just a few minutes. We talked yesterday about the fights at Hialeah Park. It's coming up a week from Friday. That's today. So 1 week away. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be a heck of a lot of fun, man. I'm looking forward to that. I can't believe you're not going to make it down there, Libby.
I'm so jealous. We hadn't even started promoting this when I booked this flight, so I didn't even think about it. I didn't know
how many tickets do I need to hit Frank Fiore up for this thing?
I would say 4, because I know Ken would definitely want to go. Mayo may want to go. And you
Mayo, now he's not schlepping to any fights.
He may. It's not that far from him. I mean, he
could play poker there. I mean, he would enjoy the poker room at Hialeah Park. I mean, because everything's great there.
Just in case your wife, even though she doesn't go to the fight,
Mustang will go, so I kind of have to have a seat for her, I guess. Although there's usually a seat or two that's open around us. So, because, I mean, a lot of people are up and down or involved with the fighters.
Andy, man, I know likes it. He may want to go,
Yeah. And all kinds of celebrity boxers show up there. I mean, guys that are very, very popular. Deontay Wilder.
Yep.
Were you there when Wilder was out there at the fights? And he's making proclamations. I want you, Ortiz. Yeah. I want you.
Yeah, both Ortiz.
King Kong Ortiz was there. Yeah, I think King Kong Ortiz. Did he fight in one of those fights? King Kong Ortiz?
I don't know. I know that they had a thing then leading to them fighting there. Like it was a big freaking deal. Yeah.
I mean, they had some great action there. It's really a hoot because it's not that easy to, just become fight promoters. which they've done at Hialeah Park. It's absolutely fantastic. And they did it right. They aligned themselves with good people. So you're going to get, and I've been to a zillion boxing matches. I've worked for all kinds of promoters. I've been all over the world, actually, not all over the world, but even internationally. And I would have to say it's one of the most entertaining venues and cards that you would find anywhere. Where you're not at like Vegas for even some of these world title fights are not as much fun because you're so close to the action as you'll find at Hialeah Park. And this is no amateur lightweight kind of show. I mean, we're talking about some serious professionals that you're going to be seeing either winning world titles or they already have, including Guillermo Rigondeaux, who's in the main event. So get your tickets. That's what we're talking about, man. Get your popcorn ready. Get a hot dog. You can buy drinks there, and it's fantastic. At bars everywhere outside, and then like you said, Lubie, how often at a ball game do you ever get change back from anything that you offer a bartender?
You were expecting me to pull, I guess, a Lubie and stash money, and I gave you back a lot more than you thought you'd get.
I think I gave you 40 to buy like 4 drinks, figuring that wasn't even going to cover it. That you would have to go to your pocket. And it was like, $13 or something. I'm like, wait a minute, man. These are doubles? What are you talking about?
I looked at the guy and I was like, I wanted 4. He's like, I know.
See, I love that, though, man. It makes you feel better about the event. You don't want to be sitting there, like, even for a split second in the misery of thinking that you just got fucked financially.
Yeah.
At the concession stands. It's annoying. It just is. I don't know. I mean, you're expecting it in a lot of places, right? You walk into the movies, you buy some jujubes, you're figuring they're going to be $6.
Yes.
All right. Casino, you go to one of the restaurants there, you're thinking, okay, the prices are going to be a little bit high here. You're going to pay $5 for a soda. They don't do that to you at Hialeah Park. It's just a beautiful thing, man. You're going to love it. Get your tickets. Hialeah Park, boxing coming up next Friday night online at hialeahpark.com or at the box office. All right, coming back with the Greek in just a moment. Now that.
The time.
7:39. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
We welcome the Greek to the show. Greek, who subjected himself to all kinds of cruel and unusual punishment by coming into our studio yesterday here at 940 Wins.
Anytime. I tell you, best decision I made in 2017 was being on the show with you guys. Even though it was my worst year of my life because I got married, it was still the best decision I ever made.
I'm not sure that that's much of a step up from the bottom. Being on this show,
I'm committed
trying
to you
help
guys. I'm more committed to you guys than I am to my marriage next year.
The morning just isn't right without Defo. We now return to the Defo Show.
Turned out he wasn't kidding because he's still on the show, but she's gone. You got to go Hall & Oates on that once in a while. All right, welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Lubie Lubitz here, South Florida Live, and always a pleasure to have this gentleman on the program. Just quickly before we make this introduction, I have to give a shout out that I neglected to yesterday, and I meant to, but I, naturally I was seeing bugs when I woke up in the morning. Bobby Mack and the crew, the boys and girls at the Borgata, I believe, are tuned in now. Big fans now of the program. Met these guys through The Godfather, who's in town today and is likely to stop by the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Show at Gulfstream Park later on this afternoon. But Bobby Mack, a great guy, met him there in the race book at the Borgata, and they couldn't have been any sweeter of a group of people. So looking forward to seeing Don O'Malley, the Godfather, and his crew down at Gulfstream Park later on today. All right, and Rosalina, we have to say hello to Rosalina. She's one of our favorite fans here, tuned in early this morning. Now, we bring on the Greek, who, really needs no introduction the world over, as the great Jimmy Lennon Sr. used to say. And Greek, we gave you a round of applause. I don't know if you caught that earlier. We're going to do it again here. Reprise that, Lubie.
Greek man.
Greek, yeah, man. You pressed it, my man.
I love it.
You pressed it. You obviously have no Jewish blood in your body.
Exactly.
You refuse to hedge on the
I married a Jewish. You remember, I married a Jewish-Russian girl. So.
Yes. Well, I don't know which part of her betrayed you, but it could have been both.
It worked out in the end.
Yeah.
Gambling.
Maybe that's a wicked combination. Russian Jews. What are you talking about?
Well, what are you going to do? Things happen. Yesterday we had a big celebration at Breakers in Palm Beach.
Nice.
And for the Chiefs, and we tipped our glasses up to Mahomes as they had their parade, and we had our parade, getting a facial and a pedicure, manicure, getting ready for the weekend.
Very nice, man. Now where did you take in the game? Because look, at halftime, I started thinking about our friend Sheldon G, who posted his bets on Facebook, and he often does this, and he makes these substantial wagers. And we calculated that he had a total of $500,000.
You did.
Invested in the Chiefs, 300,000 of which was on the money line. Yeah, it didn't look good at halftime. I mean, they had a chalk outline of Mahomes in the decal there at midfield, and the Philly fans and I was amongst were going nuts.
Yeah, well, remember that James Caan and the Gambler, the original one. We don't pay halftime scores, Axel, unless you're in halftime. I mean, they were down. I looked at it that they were down by 10. They only had the ball for 7 minutes.
Yep.
And Philly was only up by 10. As I told my friends, I said, it's not that bad. Yeah. Mahomes' ankle obviously was a concern, but when he came out, they shot him with all the Botox and Boca. He was ready to go, and they spanked him. And they just outplayed him in the second half. I mean, that's the whole thing. The holding call everybody talks about, but the defensive back said I held him. And if it's a penalty in the third week of the season, it's a penalty there. So, yeah, I was happy, obviously, but was I concerned? Not down by 10. No, I think if they didn't get that fumble return and, the Eagles, at the end of the half went up again and it was 28, because at some point, except for the Patriots, mathematically with time, it's hard to come back. But I didn't think it was that bad, 10. 17, 24, then you're screwed. But, and I think also that coin toss was big that they lost because they got the ball at the end of the half. And then with 3 minutes in, you look up at the scoreboard, they're only down 3.
They're right in it, yes. No, that was huge.
That fumble, then the fumble that they said was not a fumble, the guy that had possession.
That was a bad call.
Yeah, possession.
Bad call.
I mean, he could have went in. They would have been up by 4 with only 4 minutes in. But
it was a bigger egregious mistake by the officials than anything that could have been said about the holding call that people are bitching about, which was, as even the guy admitted, Greek, was a legitimate holding call.
Yeah, I held him.
Yeah.
No, I give credit to the Eagles coach, too. He came after the game. He goes, hey, one play doesn't change it. We lost. But I thought that guy did catch the ball. He pulled both his feet. But it's still gray area with the NFL. Like, is it a catch? It's not. He didn't make a football move. I mean, you're going to get that. Nothing's really changed since Des Bryant. But I bet him because I told you, last week, I like Mahomes, and I like Andy Reid. I think that they and both touchdowns they scored, guys were wide open. Like they had plays.
Oh yeah, no, they ran the same play on opposite sides of the field, and it worked just as easily on the other side. Like a few minutes later,
it was like when you're in the park.
Like if you see this guy go in motion, why don't you stay with him? And how they ran that play right back on the other side. I mean, that's something that you find like in the park when you're with the big kids and you're playing a bunch of little schminks.
Yeah, he's a great quarterback, the best. He's got a great resume for the 5 years he started.
Yes.
I think Andy Reid, I've told you this, I don't think Andy Reid gets enough credit as a head coach, what he did with Philly, 4 championships there, 5 here, as far as, NFC and AFC. And then, he goes to the Super Bowl the way he does. But I think he's a great coach. I like that halftime. He said, you guys aren't going out to Rihanna. If you want to watch Rihanna, keep walking.
And that was good advice, as it turned out.
Yeah.
You're tight with the music business through your father and all the experiences you had there as a young Greek. And I mean, what did you make of that, man? And what was Roger Goodell thinking? I mean, to have some woman finger her vagina to the thousands and millions of kids that were watching around the world. I mean, they were worried about like pasties and a G-string on Janet Jackson years ago. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I always wonder, and you never find out, like when the dress rehearsal's there and Goodell and all them are seeing it, do they do that or not? Like it goes back to a little bit before my time, Jim Morrison on Ed Sullivan, when he was told not to sing Come on, baby, light my fire, and he said no problem. He went out and he did it. I don't know what happened, in the rehearsals or whatever. But Goodell, again, the NFL always wants to do the thing of we want the younger generation, and that is one of the reasons they have so much success, because they have the younger generation. The other guy is like the guy who loves a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like guys like us, we always love the NFL. They got you. You know what I mean? They're like a woman who's got you. Once they got you, and then they move on. And they always want that young demographic, which and in our country, that's what it is right now. That's what they want. I mean, last year the Super Bowl show, got Emmys and many awards. I mean, remember years ago, the first couple of Super Bowls, they had high school bands.
Yes. So I thought that was brilliant. I love that as entertainment. I really do. Playing that German Bavarian oompa music, that you hear in Mexico. If you get down to Tijuana and you're trying to buy a leather jacket on the street,
Yeah, nobody. How about Raquel Welch passing away? I made her remember. What a beautiful woman! Oh my God!
And she aged like a champion.
I was saying yesterday, I waited on her once at a restaurant that I was working
in,
and it was the kind of place where you did talk a lot with the clientele. In other words, you had to explain a lot of things on the menu and different things about the food and the wine and everything. So she couldn't have been any more pleasant. I mean, for a woman that was I think that was like probably mid-70s, and she was at the height of her sexual popularity, and she was real down to earth, though. Very, very delightful person.
I was at the Beverly Hills Hilton one time, and she was having lunch right next to me. I didn't want to say hi, or bother her.
Yeah.
And she looked over and she said, "Greek."
Who do you like in the fifth at Hollywood Park today? Yeah, she's going out with Jack Klugman or something.
I watched the Super Bowl strike. Had a good time. A little cold outside, but it was good.
Yeah,
had a good time, and like I said, just banging around with the Breakers yesterday. Had a good time. A couple of friends. And that was.
I mean, the question is, I don't know if you want to divulge how many digits it was that you had on the Chiefs before the season started at 7-1. Did we lose you on that?
Pay my rent. Yeah, I heard you. I'm going to pay my rent for a couple.
What did you think? The IRS has our show tapped? I mean,
got quiet.
All of a sudden, the tape goes silent. Yeah. I was watching this thing yesterday about how they brought down a mob in New York. I mean, all of a sudden, you're like those tapes that all of a sudden become inaudible.
No. I'm never a guy. You noticed me.
No, you don't brag about it either way, which is good.
No, I don't. I hit a horse last week. You would have died. I was at the track, right?
Yeah.
So some guy comes up to me. I'm at Gulfstream. Was it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. Yeah, the day before the Super Bowl. So he goes, "Hey, you bet these long shots all the time." He goes, "Did they ever come in?" I go, "They do all right." And there's a lady, banging the tickets out. Older woman, Elaine. She's been there 20 years.
Yeah.
He goes, "Are you kidding me? This kid's born with a horseshoe up his ass."
You are. I mean, in that regard, for as hard as we try to figure out breeding and bloodlines and who won the Belmont in '56 and how does it apply to this claiming race in the middle of the card, you go in there and say, yeah, give me Johnny Got Lucky. Yeah, he's 50-1. And sure enough, there he goes. Right? It's Johnny Got Lucky. And I don't know if they're going to catch him today. He has a lead by 4 now with the 16th pole. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
who has that horse? The Greek. One guy's hollering. It's you.
Yeah. No, I didn't say anything. But I hit the first race. The horse was 55-1.
Oh my God.
Nice.
And
One guy's going, yeah.
And
And it's you, Greek. It's never me. It's you.
I don't say a word. You know me. I just go to the thing. I give the girl, I gave Elaine a tip. And she goes, I told that guy you were lucky. She goes, they don't know what they're doing. They read the programs all day. What do they win? Nothing. Because you come in, drop something on it, and walk out.
That's true.
You have instincts. I mean, that's part of being great at life is to have, just natural instincts.
It's no instinct. I bet the 4 long shots every time. That's it.
Yeah.
And if I hit one, I stop for the day.
Oh,
And
God. And you have discipline on top of that? Blind luck? That's a great combination for a degenerate. Blind luck and being a discipline.
That's why it hasn't
guy also, yeah. Quitting while you're ahead is not the same as quitting.
That's right. Remember that? That was in Gangster. With
American Gangster, yeah. The Asian drug dealer.
Yeah. I don't buy a program. I mean, I don't even look. I just go up to the window and I'm like, all right. 4.
You start looking at 30-1. That's my experience with you, which is great. And I don't know, you hit an uncanny amount of times, Greek. I have to say. I mean, for a guy that should be getting stuck 500 every race, you come out of it okay.
Yeah, 20-1 and up I go usually. And it depends. Like sometimes if there's no horses 20-1, I might go 9-1. I'm not going to bet a horse less than 10-1. It's not worth it.
No, I don't think
it's never worth it. I look at it like that. But that famous trainer was sitting next to us. What's his name? Fletcher. Very nice.
Fletcher. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Did he recognize you also? And turn around and go, "Hey, Greek, who do you like in this race?"
No, he just said, "Tell Devo I said hi." So you got to talk.
Fletcher's very low key, man. I mean, he's not a guy that you're going to get like a lot of fireworks out of in terms of confidence. Not a bad guy, accommodating, but very low key and dry.
Yeah, we sat next to him. He had his box outside, and then we had our box. And then he goes,
very refined.
Well, I think no, nice guy, very nice, very fine. But no. But I mean, yeah, that's the way I do it at the track. I just feel that's the best luck. I mean,
sure.
You go off, you bet 4 long shots. I've been doing it for years, and that's it. I mean, and the other thing with me is I'm not betting 10 races. I'll bet 4 or 5. I'm done. You know what I mean? I'm not going to, because then you're like,
I've bet 10 races by 1:30.
And Defoe's just literally,
post time was 1 o'clock. Yeah. I am screen to screen.
One year I had the Derby. I had 18 horses out of 21 I lost.
Nice. That sounds like Todd Schrupp, our buddy on Fanville TV. Well, that always happens, though. You leave one horse out. You're thinking, I'll only spend 20 here, and you had to spend 21 to get every horse in there. And, so you leave one out, and, of course, that one wins at 90-1.
Yeah, and I always bet the 7 for Sinatra, my dad. Sinatra's favorite color was orange, so I'll always do that. So I bet that. And that's it. That's my style. I mean, the guy came up to me and he's like, "What do you do? What do you read? What do you follow? What blog do you read?" I said, "I don't read anything. I don't even have a program." I go, I bet.
He's asking you. He's asking you about all kinds of bizarre numbers and buyer speed figures, and the Thorograph. All right, Greek, we got to run. You be good. Are you punching basketball? What are you doing now? Anything for any kind of action? Or are you sitting going to lay low till next football season?
No. March Madness is going to be wide open. There's no team that's really a powerhouse, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And, we'll be talking, give you some college games, some NBA, and the NBA All-Star games this weekend.
Oh, cool. We'd love to
have
you.
All right.
Good, my friend. All right.
Man, good luck
the
this
Greek,
week.
ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks.
Peace.
All right. The Greek could have taken some of that money he won on the Chiefs and gone down and partied at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. No, Libby, isn't that a good idea?
Yes, he could have. And he's a guy
Now, where do we stand on the relations for the Jimmy Johnson's Big
I
Chill
have
trip?
not heard back in the last couple of weeks, so that's not great. The professors also talked with our friend CJ, who's actually one of their managers,
Yes.
He said, "Yeah, it's a fucking shit show in a good way. Like they're just packed, they're slammed.
Oh, they're busy. Okay, all right.
I don't know if you're gonna get there right now. The season has to come closer to the end.
All right, we'll preview next year with Jimmy Johnson.
I mean, it's whatever. I wouldn't mind this.
It'd be great to get down there. That's for sure, because it's a wonderful place to be. And as you mentioned, CJ, he's putting together. What do they have? Like a separate pizza place also down there in Key Largo? What's the deal on that, Lubie? How's that work?
Here, I'll let Ken come on because Ken was just with CJ. So see, because I didn't realize, that where they made the pizzas, you can talk, Ken. You're on the air. You can talk.
Yeah.
It's Tavernier. It's not Key Largo.
Oh, okay. Tavernier is what? Another 15 miles south?
The CJ place.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like 20 minutes away. It's not far.
All right, but they're associated? They're affiliated, right? Because
it's the
Spiller
same
is
owners,
always there.
There's a lot of the same people bounce between both places. Yeah, it's the same. If you get pizza at Jimmy Johnson's, Enrico's down in Tavernier, it's the same pizza, it's the same people, and really a fantastic little Italian menu on top of that outside of the pizza.
No, great spot.
CJ is working a lot of the Big Chill now too. I guess the pizza that they do there is considered Enrico's.
It's the same thing. Yes, Enrico's basically runs the pizza at the Big Chill, and now they have their own location. Well, not now; it's been there for a few years. Their own location down in Tavernier, and if you go to the one down in Tavernier, it's also a really good Italian menu. The Fra Diavolo is fantastic.
Wow. Okay, got to check that out.
It's all laughing like I'm being a smart ass. No, I really like the Fra Diavolo.
No, everything they threw at us.
I'm a big fan of that particular dish, especially done well. Everything that we had at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill was absolutely delicious, and saw a lot of scrumptious stuff happening, including you want to have a romantic dinner there and get some, really fresh seafood done, in kind of a foo-foo fashion. You can do that, or you can eat the pork nachos and eat to your heart's content.
I don't think you can actually eat those. I think you need at least 3 human beings to eat those nachos.
We had like 5 of us.
I think Joey Chestnut would tap out of those.
That's why we're bringing Mayo. He's shown a proficiency at being able to consume massive amounts of food in less than 3 bites. He has a little chestnut in him. Have you seen him?
I have.
Yeah,
but I'm telling you, there's no way Mayo is eating that plate of nachos. That's thing it's literally the size of a truck.
Really?
Tire.
Should we put some money on that? We should.
Yes, yeah. I will go no. And in fact, I will lay minus 140 on the no. That's what I'm telling you. There's no chance Mayo eats that plate of nachos.
All right. Well, we have to get him down there because everybody should experience it.
We have to put a timer on it because he's the kind of disgusting bastard who would eat for like 3 days just to finish it. But flies coming off the nacho.
I don't know. I think he has more of a tendency towards, like picking the whole plate up and licking it and having it just sit there, kind of like a pelican when a pelican catches a big fish and you can see it going down.
We'll arrange the terms of the bet, but I'm an absolute no. There's no way he's finishing that plate of nachos.
I'm going to have to see this, and we'll put him up to it because he will take a challenge on like that.
He only did like 4 hot dogs. There's no way in hell he's finishing that plate.
4 hot dogs.
Yeah, it's true.
How did that happen, by the way? He refused to dip them in the water, the buns in the water. That's
Andy's
really the
talked about. You weren't around. Andy said this, and he's true. Mayo's not a marathoner. He's a sprinter. Like he's not going to eat a lot. He just eats a little, very disgustingly.
Yeah, he's a 2 furlong horse. He really is. He's going to pop the gate, and you're going to get all excited. Like this horse, Little Mahoney, I used to bet when I first started going to the track. Never won, right? But every time he ran, coming right back with Little Mahoney, did the same thing every time. Lead and fade, lead and fade, lead and fade. I think that's where Mayo's coming from on the food. Good challenge, though, Professor. And, it's no challenge for you. The challenge is figuring out what off that extensive menu that you're going to have, and it's now a landmark location there, right there at the beginning of your ride through the Keys, Key Largo. That's mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway. Great views, all kinds of activities there. They do have accommodations. Check it out, Jimmy Johnson's BigChill.com for more information. You can see the full menu. It's really, really outrageous how many different offerings they have, and really a top-notch place to go if you're heading for the Florida Keys or heading out of the Keys. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. All right, the Professor, I guess, we're going to zone in on some more college basketball, and then also the big board continues. Here, post-Super Bowl. Is it a Super Bowl postscript by any chance? Are we even in the ballpark there, Professor?
Yes,
on the big board?
You might be in the ballpark.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, okay. Could have been pitchers and catchers reporting, although that was probably an
It's not gonna
unlikely
be
angle for you to
pitchers and
take.
catch,
Yeah.
no.
No phony poetry about how great baseball is, even though it's boring as shit at this point.
We could talk about that, but no, I'm with you. Like, the style of play in Major League Baseball at this point is completely unwatchable. Like,
It's nuts.
A combined 32 strikeouts between the two teams.
6 homers.
You have 6 homers, 5 of which are solo shots.
Solo shots, yeah.
For a 4-2 final. Like, yeah, it's just.
As 11 relievers hold the other team to 6 hits. Yeah.
And, like, if anybody tries to steal a base, they are immediately sent back to AAA.
What are you doing running?
Bill James Baseball has completely taken over Major League Baseball, and it turns out there's a reason they kept Bill James away from the game for 60 years.
They had him locked up. Yeah.
I'm not arguing against the efficiency. I'm not arguing it's winning baseball. It is, but it is just horrific to watch.
Boring as shit.
Yeah, no, it's declined to the point where there's hardly any action. No balls are in play, which does not bode well for the entertainment quotient
there's
in the game.
reason nobody ever says, "Wow, that was a really efficient movie. I enjoyed
that." Well, and the shame too is, we were talking about it earlier. I mean, one of my favorite things, even though a guy was a 250 career hitter, if that, and would average like 20 homers a year. Clete Boyer, one of my favorite defensive players. You have amazing defensive players in the game.
Not anymore. You don't.
No, they don't. You don't even see defense. That's the thing. Like,
well, you don't get a chance to see it. That's the problem. It's not that they can't play defense. I mean, they do make miraculous plays.
Never in the field.
Yeah. If you were watching baseball in like the 70s, who would have thought that there was somebody in the stands, a young Billy Bean in the stands, watching the game and go, Dave Kingman, that's the future of baseball.
Great.
Nothing but Dave Kingman everywhere on the field, full time.
Yeah. That was it. That year, Kingman was with the Mets. It was brutal. I don't know if was he there longer than that? I'm not sure. Dave Kingman.
Dudes who hit 240 with 40 home runs and like 90 to 100 RBIs and 180 strikeouts. So you like that somewhere. Somebody was watching baseball like during the Dave Kingman era or Rob Deere back in the 80s and was like, yep, that's baseball. That's what I want. Like
still one of my favorite
guys on each team.
One of my favorite moments of my, fairly modest career was when I happened to be in Tommy Lasorda's office during the Kingman rant. And the guy asked a question, says, "Oh, what did you think?" No one was talking for a while because the Dodgers had lost. Kingman had 3 homers and like 8 RBIs in the game. And finally somebody pipes up, and I always thought it was this guy, Steve Futterman, and he told me who it was. The guy ended up becoming like an announcer for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I can't recall his name. So he says, Tommy, what did you think of Kingman's performance tonight? And the rest is legendary. As Joe Pesci didn't use as many expletives as Tommy Lasorda did in lambasting this guy for asking a stupid fucking question like that. We just got beat. He went off, man. It was absolutely fantastic. One of his greatest rants ever. All right, we have the big board coming up and some college basketball plays with the professor. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. Great place to go. The Gambling Gourmet going to join us later on as he continued to test for COVID because he had the sniffles or something yesterday.
He's negative. He took a test. He's negative. He literally takes a test every time he coughs.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with him.
Yes, he has to clear his throat, and all of a sudden he thinks he has tuberculosis. It's unbelievable.
It's so weird.
Is that that's a Jewish trait, right? Is it not? But I was never a hypochondriac like that. I always thought, well, geez, this is nothing. I had COVID, and I thought it was nothing.
Literally,
I couldn't move. And but the 8 days later, you take the test. It's like getting the X-ray on the toe. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Now that
the time,
it's 8:06.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
People come to me and say, Mike, where should I go out to eat? I got guests coming from out of town.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me.
If Brian Flores had just kept his mouth shut, collected his $100,000 per loss checks,
Very
and
true.
done his job, that was what you were hired for, asshole. You weren't down here to compete. You weren't down here to try to win games. You were hired to lose games so we could get the number 1 pick in the draft, you piece of trash. And then you've got the nerve to sue your boss because you refuse to lose your boss's instruction. And you know what? I hope you stay with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I hope Joe Burrow kicks your ass twice a year for the rest of your life, because that's what you deserve for not doing your job, you piece of garbage.
Well stated, Professor. All right, I can't even imagine where we're going with number 1.
Honestly, can you imagine if you're the Arizona Cardinals right now and you are getting ready to possibly hire this man as your head coach? If I'm Kyler Murray's agent, I'm calling the Cardinals front office and say, that's fine. Trade my client right fucking now. Do not put this bum anywhere near my player who you just signed for $200 million. Do not put this piece of garbage. If I see Ryan Fitzpatrick in Las Vegas because it's 100 miles from Phoenix, I want everybody in the front office fired or my client out of this franchise.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
All right, by the way, a special programming note here. John Feinstein going to join us at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock today. So author John Feinstein, always a hoot, very opinionated about many, many things, and has had tremendous sports experience. And as we like to say, he's written more books. Well, maybe the professor is excluded from this category than certainly Lubie and I have cumulatively read in our lifetime. He's got about 40 books that he's authored, and maybe even more by now. But he's done some great stories. So he's going to join us at 9 o'clock today, and we'll go a little overtime with John Feinstein here on a Degenerate Friday. All right, Professor, I mean, college basketball, very hard to peg. What do you see out there? I mean, every time a team becomes number 1, they lose. Purdue has lost 2 in a row now. Alabama went down. And people have been talking about parity in the game for a long, long time. But I don't know if we've seen this much at the top. What do you see on the horizon here? I mean, as we head towards the tournament, and is it possible that both Kentucky and North Carolina will not be in the NCAA tournament, will be turning down a bid to the NIT?
It's possible. I mean, we would have said at this time last year that North Carolina absolutely was not a tournament team, and they ended up in the final game last year. So, I mean, is it possible they miss? Yeah, it's also possible they go on another crazy run because there's really nobody out there that's that great to stop them. I think Kentucky will probably get in because the SEC is a really good league this year. It's probably the second best league after the Big 12, in my opinion. That'll upset Big 10 fans that I just said that. But I think the league strength in the SEC will definitely get Kentucky in. Carolina, the ACC is a little bit more marginal. But yeah, I mean, it's within the realm of possibility. You never know how both teams are going to finish out the year.
Who do you think is the strongest team right now? Can you pick one? I mean,
last night it was Gonzaga, who shot about 70% from the field against a Loyola Marymount team that some people thought were going to be game there. By the way, if you have not caught Loyola Marymount, you need to watch a Loyola Marymount game because they have the strangest human being I have ever seen playing for them at the power forward position. Kelly Lupalele is a 6'6" Aussie who you cannot tell what race he is because he looks like he has everything mixed into him. He is built like a 6'6" defensive end, and he has a mullet that is at least a foot long in the back. This is the weirdest looking human being you have ever seen in your life. He looks like Steven Adams had sex with Julius Peppers while Yao Ming and
Who was the center from Florida that had the mullet?
Dwayne Shintius had Dwayne
Yeah,
while Yao
Shintius,
Ming and Shintius watched. And he wears socks, but they are so high they literally look like tights, but you can tell they're socks because like every once in a while the hem of his shorts will come and be like he's just wearing socks that are in the middle of his thighs. And he's good. Like this is the strangest looking thing I have ever seen in my life.
Wow.
So definitely, if you get the chance, check out a Loyola Marymount game just to see the weirdest looking athlete in the history of sports.
Now, do they still go back to the West Head days? Did they perpetuate this?
No, nobody plays that run and gun 3-point style like West Head did.
Yeah.
A couple of teams tried to steal it, just like Pat Riley stole Paul Westhead's offense with the Lakers. No one has ever had the success with it.
He was an interesting guy, man. We had him on.
Yeah.
He was like 80 years old. He wrote a book. Yeah. And, one of those guys, you always like a coach who's innovative and the innovation works.
Magic Johnson?
What's that?
It was not
his book, F. Pat Riley and Magic Johnson?
Well, I mean, he probably wasn't a big fan. We didn't bring up Pat during the interview or ask if he had dedicated a chapter to the Riley era.
Honestly, there have been very few coaches.
He hoisted up a shot, though, every 5 seconds. You had to love that, Professor.
Yep.
Every 5 seconds, he wanted a ball in the air.
Bo Kimball and Hank Gathers and Jeff Fryer, they made that great tournament run after Gathers' unfortunate death. I mean,
yes,
that was one of the most fun teams probably in college basketball history. It wasn't always effective, but it was fun.
Yeah, they were great. They would put up like 150 points a game. It was like watching Gino Auriemma going against the junior varsity and leaving all of his starters in the entire game.
Doesn't Gino Auriemma do that every opportunity?
They play regular.
That's like Gino Auriemma against everybody he got the chance to run the score up ever.
Well, and speaking of Auriemma, I did want to address this because we've been talking about it in relation to all sports, it seems, especially football, where every year you probably could say it's become cliche to say this was the worst year I've ever seen in terms of officiating in the history of the game. Now, I'm watching a couple of college games while I was thinking about making some wagers in Atlantic City. Syracuse got the benefit of a couple of calls and non-calls as they won their ball game over North Carolina State 75-72, getting to the line. And then no call on what appeared to be a foul at the end of the game. That
confirming what we gave out a couple of weeks ago, which has been the most rock solid gambling trend I can remember in a long time in college basketball, which is ranked teams on the road who are and the unranked home team is laying points. Favorites in that situation are something like 30-16 so far this year, including Syracuse. The other day, who was laying 1.5 to NC State and won straight up. Yeah,
I mean, Gino clearly benefited from a couple of calls in the. I was watching the end of the women's UConn game. I think they were playing Creighton. And,
you were watching.
Well, I mean, I saw it on some highlights, and
clearly these Atlantic City junkets are not as exciting.
No, I think I was already home by then.
If you have time to watch a UConn Creighton women's game.
Obviously, I was wandering around wondering why I continue to play video poker on the same machine that isn't due. You know what? Sometimes you just have to recognize as a degenerate that you're not due. This machine isn't due. It's not primed to hit. The reason the last guy got up is because he got wiped out, and you're just about to get the floor mopped with your head also.
That's how you know you are not a true slots player, Defo, and you should leave it to the Mustang. I have never met a true slots player who wasn't convinced that every machine they touched wasn't due. Like if you're a slots player, you look
you
at
have to believe, yes,
and everything is due.
It's like being a Fox News broadcaster. You have to believe the shit, even if you know it's not true.
You have to be a complete zealot. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You honestly, you don't even have to be a Fox News broadcaster. You have to be a suicide bomber. You have to legitimately believe that those 40 virgins are waiting for you in heaven. Like,
unbelievable. All right, the professor. Any college plays?
Any games? Any steam?
We kind of like New Mexico a little bit. laying a 1.5 tonight on the road, but I'm not crazy about the college slate. I will tell you what I'm very excited about, Defo, and
yes.
that is the return of the XFL. The XFL is
Oh,
coming
wow.
back this weekend.
And you're a good handicapper on that.
And if you can remember,
I thought
last
8 years
year
ago.
we had a lot of success with the USFL.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yesterday I'm going over XFL rosters. It turns out about half the players, maybe even more, might be 2/3, are guys who played in the USFL last year. It's like they just jumped the players from the USFL to the XFL, and the USFL is coming back, I believe, in like late April or early May, which makes me wonder if these guys are going to leave the XFL and just go back to the USFL, and we're going to get like a full season worth of games from these guys. I am very excited about that prospect. I'm sure Lubie will be very excited about that prospect because last year, DeAndre Johnson, former Florida State quarterback, was really one of the stars of the USFL. And this year, we're seeing the return of DeAndre Francois, perhaps the biggest embarrassment in the history of Florida State football. A quarterback who, if you remember, was great as a freshman at Florida State, then got hurt, then came back from the injury and absolutely stunk at Florida State. They got kicked out of school for domestic violence, went to Hampton and was even worse at Hampton than he was at Florida State. So I am very curious to see what is going to happen with him.
Might be a obvious
XFL
play against A.J. McCarron, too, going to play in this new league.
He is a St. Louis Battlehawk, correct?
Yeah.
I
don't think, has he played in the last 5 years anywhere? I don't think so. He wasn't involved in any of these fledgling leagues. I think he's been out of the NFL for a while.
He was probably out adding to that ridiculous tattoo that he carries on his chest, which is the most confusing thing I've ever seen in my life. We'll have to probably feature that on the big board. Maybe we'll do an XFL themed big board.
That'd be great. Very nice. Good.
Anyway,
right,
so this weekend, we like Las Vegas. Clearly superior at the quarterback position, getting 3.5 from Arlington. Las Vegas features Luis Perez, who was very good in the USFL last year, and Brett Hundley, the former Green Bay Packers.
Hundley's in XFL.
Yeah, trying to make a return to football. So excited about the possibilities at Las Vegas this year. And then we like Seattle over DC, again, strictly on depth of quarterback position, including a couple guys who were very good in the USFL last year. So we're excited for the return of the XFL and then continuing the football season to some degree.
That sounds great. Now, are there any rules, or differentials in the way the game is played?
I mean, it's the
XFL
XFL,
versus
so
USFL
I'm sure there
versus
is.
NFL. Yeah.
I think the first thing is you could hit the quarterback, but the quarterback is allowed to spit the green mist into your eye if you're going after
it. These chairs.
After a play, instead of doing all kinds of gesticulations and celebration, the guy just gets up and goes, "McMahon!"
And that's the other much more controversial rule based on what's been going on in the WWE. 3 cheerleaders per team must sleep with Vince McMahon sometime.
I think Vince has distanced himself from the public eye. Yeah.
It turns out the big controversial moment in the WWE when the McMahons owned the XFL, where the reporter went into the cheerleaders' locker room and Vince McMahon was back there. That wasn't staged. That was probably actually true. Because I mean, it turns out that Vince McMahon makes Dan Snyder look like a gentleman on that film.
Oh God!
Oh, no doubt. No, he Matt Lauer would have gotten a free pass.
Let's not go too far. Like Matt Lauer, like when you actually have a little button that locks the door behind.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Yeah.
That takes a whole different level of.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like the boss that has the trap door on the other side of his desk. If you say the wrong
exactly.
thing.
Like,
get straight to a dungeon.
Matt Lauer was a sexual Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Really whole different.
Kevin Spacey's record doesn't seem to be as spotless as the courts think it is either. I mean,
going back to wrestling, Matt Lauer's reputation is worse than Kevin Sullivan's. Forget Kevin Spacey.
Sullivan was okay till he went to the dark side. He took some trip to Asia somewhere, and here we go. People are going to think we're trashing Asians again, but when he came back, he wasn't the same man.
I love
he
Kevin
literally had been tapped on the shoulder by matters of the occult. which changed him dramatically in terms of
And
his whole persona.
did a great job on the wrestling front too. But Defo, we do, while we're here, need to release a public service warning.
Yes.
And it's got nothing to do with gambling. We're at Landlubbers last night. We're walking up to the door, and what do I see? Those damn Girl Scouts are out again.
Oh, no.
Cooking their wares. Set up a table outside with the usual 47 box of Thin Mints.
Right.
Once again, trying to convince America that Thin Mints aren't the garbage that they are. Thin Mints, the worst cookie in the history of America. They're out there, people. Watch yourselves, because this is the time of year. If you're not careful, they will con you into the Thin Mint.
Yeah. I'd rather send a check off to Joel Osteen's ministry. I would feel it would be of more value. All right, Professor, we'll turn our attention then to the big board, which we hinted might be a Super Bowl postscript of some sort. But let's see where you're going today with the big board.
Well, if you remember, Defo, we are now at our official 1-year anniversary.
Is that right?
The first time we did it, it was about Super Bowl overs and unders, which I'm not going to comment on because all these people who thought Chris Stapleton's national anthem was great. Chris Stapleton's national anthem was garbage. Way to stretch out the first verse, country guy.
Yeah.
Could you have run a little bit longer?
I knew you were in trouble.
With
I
that
knew you were in
first
trouble.
verse?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan, so we're not going to comment. But we did that. With
Took a dramatic pause in the middle of the song.
Then the next week,
I almost jumped
we
off
came
a
back
ledge.
with the first official big board done on the screen here, and it was the big board of Super Bowl Suck. So for the 1-year anniversary,
This is big board 2 of Super Bowl Sucks. Nice.
we have the big board of Super Bowl Suck 2023.
Beautiful. All right. Let's
And
unveil
look,
the.
there were a lot of great things about this Super Bowl, but there were some bad things too. And we're going to start talking about those. And that starts with one that was inevitably, 100% the minute they announced that this was going to end up on the Super Bowl Suck board. And of course it did. And that is Gronk's kick, which he missed.
He did boot it.
I'm going to flash you back to the early 90s here, Defo. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a period for a couple of years in the early 90s where Dr. Pepper replaced the throwing the balls into the can contest with a make a 25-yard field goal contest.
Yes.
Okay. And Dr. Pepper discovered that if you tell people a couple months ahead of time that all they have to do is kick a 25-yard field goal, it is so easy to kick a 25-yard field goal that Dr. Pepper gave away so much money in 2 years, they immediately went back to throwing the balls in the cans because they were going to lose all their money if they kept giving away on 25-yard field goals. But somehow a professional athlete who allegedly trained with Adam Vinatieri couldn't make a 25-yard kick to win $10 million for America via FanDuel on this. Hooked it so badly that it somehow hooked outside after 25 yards. I think this was thrown. I think this was intentional. I think a best case scenario.
He probably had money on the miss. Yeah.
No, he's probably working with FanDuel.
I think the best case scenario is that Adam Vinatieri and Gronk's idea of training was like going to the club and doing a bunch of X and Molly and just like talking about the kick. Like, honestly, how the hell did he miss this? And hooked it that bad from 25 yards. First of all, why was Gronk kicking soccer style? Just have him kick straight on. It's 25 yards away, and he's got plenty of leg. He was a good 20 yards past the crossbar. Just have him kick straight on, Adam Vinatieri. What's wrong with you? Like, honestly, why did anybody try? I don't trust FanDuel anyway. We will get to that in future big boards. I'm hearing a lot of, and we really should talk about that seriously. I'm hearing a lot of bad things about FanDuel and DraftKings and some of their business tactics. I think this might have been part of it. Like,
I think they're working with him. They don't want to give up the $10 million.
Don't trust a Rob Gronkowski. Don't trust the Patriots. The Vinatieri, you're going to say, well, he was a Colt too. No, he's a Patriot.
Yeah.
As we learned down here with Brian Flores, you cannot trust these people.
Didn't he have to make it?
Working a plan behind
he had to make it. That was the whole promotion, was to have this big triumphant moment where Gronk, releases tens of millions of dollars to the unfortunate parlay suckers that are playing prop bets on FanDuel, and gives them a chance to, lose even more money chasing that. But,
I wonder if they put up a prop about Gronk making the kick. They probably
I think they did, and I think Gronk had it. Miss.
And it should have suspiciously been no minus 210.
Yeah.
Again, I think this was all as fixed as any WWE match ever.
You could take your 8-year-old out to the schoolyard and have him start or her even start kicking field goals, and they could probably make a 25-yarder. It's about as easy as it gets.
I don't know if they would make it, but what I guarantee they wouldn't do is hook it so badly that it starts in the middle and ends up outside.
Yeah, you would have thought he was training at FSU, back in the day for that. All right, that's
Gronk. This was
Khan.
worse than FSU. Those started outside and stayed outside. This started in the middle and hooked outside. Like, this looked completely intentional to me.
Yeah. And it would be easy to rig. That's the problem. It's why I always was very tepid while you were very bold about betting highlight. Because there was just too much human control, right? And how many times did the guy overserve on the playoff point that you so desperately needed to get out for the day on the 13th game? Unbelievable. All right, Gronky Kong, number 5.
Number 4. This is a rich tradition in the NFL. Happened announced almost immediately after the game. In fact, the very next day. And that is that we finished the Super Bowl with a good round of coaching racism. And somehow somebody watched the Super Bowl and decided, we want to hire the Philadelphia guy who didn't call plays either, and not Eric Bienemy. Like, at this point, again, and part of what makes me hate this is that Brian Flores' stupid lawsuit is all about Eric Bienemy. It's not about Brian Flores, who apparently was in fact offered, or claims anyway. This sounds like a lie to me, but Brian Flores is now claiming he was offered the Arizona Cardinals job and turned it down to go to the Minnesota Vikings as the defensive coordinator. In which case, my question is, doesn't the judge just have to throw your lawsuit right out the window? Your claim is that no NFL team will hire you. An NFL team tried to hire you, and you say you refused the job. Meanwhile, Eric Bienemy, once again, can't get any credit for the game. All anybody wants to do is talk about Andy Reid. Despite the fact that Eric Bienemy, Andy Reid saying is an active participant, Patrick Mahomes is saying is an active participant. I really want to know, at this point, it doesn't even feel like racism. It just feels like NFL owners hate Eric Bienemy individually.
Has to be. I mean, it makes no sense. The defensive coordinator who he smoked in the second half got a head coaching job.
Again, I did Eric Bienemy hit on a bunch of owners' wives at some event at some point. What
does he say in these interviews?
I'm not even angry about it. I'm just really curious. I want to know the backstory of what the hell is going on with NFL owners and Eric Bienemy, because at this point, it feels very, very personal. It doesn't feel as if this is racism. It feels like somewhere in Roger Goodell's office, there's a picture of Eric Bienemy with a big red X through the middle.
Yep. Skull and crossbones.
Gene Upshaw is rolling over in his grave, man. He can't believe this is still going on.
Right? I mean, at this point, I think Art Shell is dead, and he's going to get another NFL job before Eric Bienemy will be allowed to be it.
Get one gig.
What does this poor bastard have to do? He's won 2 Super
Bill
Bowls.
Cowher will be coaching in the league before Eric Bienemy gets a head coaching job.
They got rid of Tyreek Hill and the rest of their wide receiver core. They came back and Patrick Mahomes was better somehow.
Yeah.
The offensive line, which is a huge weakness, was dominant against the best pass rush unit in the NFL this year. And everybody watched that game who was an NFL owner was like, you know what? Screw Eric Bienemy.
Yeah.
I don't get
Never even got consideration. I mean, his name wasn't even mentioned in conjunction with any of these jobs. So we figured he was the heir apparent to Andy Reid, but Reid gives no indication that he's ready to, give up the gig anytime soon.
Indication. Reid, announces after the game, I'll give up Krispy Kremes before I'll give up my head coaching job.
Moon pies. No mas. All right. Very good. I mean, and actually, John Feinstein is going to come on and talk a little bit about that because, he had a tweet out there that Lubie responded to, and he said, hey, let's discuss it on the show. So that's coming up at 9 o'clock.
Again,
that's number 4.
I don't feel like this is necessarily even racism. This just, at this point, feels like it is individually about Eric Bienemy.
Yeah.
Number 3. And a lot of people have been angry about this, and a lot of people have been very supportive about this. I'm just confused by the whole thing, and that is everything about Rihanna's halftime show, where somebody was like, you know what? Let's take a pregnant woman and recreate a game of Super Smash Brothers for halftime. Again, this is one of those I just don't understand. Like, did the people at Apple not know Rihanna was pregnant? Like, did Rihanna keep a pregnancy secret? Because, like, she wasn't a little pregnant. She's like 5 months pregnant.
Yeah, she's pregnant.
And like, again, this wasn't like a normal halftime show. This was the flying death drop halftime show.
What were those sperm that were out on the field? What was that supposed to be? Those guys in the white outfits.
Mick Foley to jump off one of those platforms and hit the Undertaker with a folding chair.
Yeah, that was ponderous. That whole thing was wild. Yeah.
Who the hell has been watching the halftime show with the thought, you know what this needs? More hugely pregnant women. Like, apparently there's someone out there at Apple. Is it Tim Cook? Has someone been like, you know what we need? Who is this for? Like, were there women clamoring? You know what I want is like a big fat pregnant woman come out and not dance and sing songs
and lip sync some songs.
Platform. Again, another incident, Lubie. This is as confusing as the time Jordan showed up in the Hanes commercial wearing a Hitler mustache. Like, I don't really understand. What is Rihanna so powerful? She's not releasing a new album. She's not going to be doing concerts. She's so pregnant she can barely walk. Like, she's not doing a tour. And the NFL doesn't pay you for this. Did Apple just give her a bunch of money and be like, yeah, do a halftime show, super pregnant? When she showed up, was the NFL like, what the hell is going on? We didn't want a pregnant woman at halftime show.
And out of tune, Roger Daltrey and the child molesting Peter Townsend probably would have been more appropriate, no?
God. Did we lose him? Did he die?
Wow, yeah. I mean, that one even stopped me there.
I was like, geez.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
it's all about family and equality and all of that.
Again,
were those spermatozoa? What was that? You know, that white outfit.
I mean, again, big billowy red outfit with a bunch of little white things squirming around it. There seemed to be, you know, like a Georgia O'Keeffe level of symbolism.
There's something weird
working there. Again, and then let's float them up and down on platform 70 feet in the air.
Yeah. All of a sudden you got Nick Walinda, you know.
An Owen Hart situation developing at halftime at the Super Bowl. I don't know if it sucked or not, although a lot of people seem to think it sucked, but it was the most confusing halftime show in the history of halftime shows.
Yes.
I like Rihanna, and it was weird. I didn't know what the hell was on.
It got a lot of weird reactions. People were like, oh, well, at least she kept her clothes on this time. Number one, like, are you angry with Jennifer Lopez for getting half naked during halftime show? Because if so, you're not racist. You're just really, really gay.
Which is fine, but that's what you are.
And number two, no, nobody wanted to see 6 months pregnant Rihanna get half naked during the middle of the halftime show. Yeah. That would have been weird. That wouldn't have been exciting.
Very strange.
That would have just been strange.
Weird.
It would have been appropriate, though, the way the show went, though, and the rest of the show went down.
I mean, again,
people were going wild in the casino. I mean, where I was watching it, even guys were like shaking it a little bit, and I was thinking, this show sucks. I mean, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen associated with the Super Bowl. If that was the halftime show, like between races at the Palm Beach Kennel Club, I would have thought at the matinee, you know, on a Tuesday. When it's like Alta Cocker Day, I mean, they all get in for half price. I would have thought, this is not exciting.
The phrase "worst halftime show ever" thrown out. I'm old enough to remember the Up with People days, so maybe not the worst ever, but very, very strange and very, very confusing.
All right, that's number 3. Number 2 on the big board of 2023 Super Bowl sucks.
Do you know what's coming, Defo?
Yeah.
You know the one that's going to have to be there, and that takes us to number 2. Which is Tubi trying to scare every person who's maybe a little bit old in America. Yeah. A very divisive moment in the Super Bowl because there were people who love this commercial. I think if you were smoking a joint at halftime, trying to get a little relaxed, get your little buzz on, and you walked back in to giant rabbit person in your window getting ready to drag you down the hole, you might have had a heart attack right in the middle of halftime, because I don't know what the hell was going on with this Tubi commercial. It seems to be the most polarizing commercial of the Super Bowl. There are people who love this for some reason. I have no idea why. It freaked me out. I am still seeing this giant rabbit in my nightmares and probably will be for weeks. The difference is, in my version of it, it drags you down a hole and forces you to eat Thin Mints, as opposed to
So you bought some on the way out?
forcing to go to the Netflix. No, I bought some on the way in.
No, he bought cookies. That's what's funny about the professor. He bought like 4 boxes.
Give me all of them.
Again,
Yeah.
Not Thin Mints. Not Thin Mints.
the other thing that forces me about this commercial, like, isn't everybody's favorite game going to Netflix and then spending like 20 minutes scrolling through every option before you land on the documentary about serial killers?
I did that last night. Exactly.
Isn't that what everybody in America does? I thought that was America's third favorite show at this point. I thought it was like the Super Bowl and then something on Fox News, Tucker Carlson on Fox News, and then scrolling through Netflix for half an hour before you land on the serial killer show. I thought that was what everybody did. That's basically how I spend from like 1:45 to 2:15, 3 days a week, scrolling through Netflix.
That was me last
Tubi's
night.
telling
You
me
hit it
people
right on
hate
the head.
this. I love this.
Yeah.
I don't know what your problem is, Tubi. No wonder nobody knows what the hell Tubi is, or watches Tubi, or pays for Tubi, because you don't get to scroll through for 30 minutes. Apparently, like, it just takes you to some stupid network show that nobody watches. I don't care what Fox comedy about some autistic doctor is on. No, I don't want to see that crap. I want to scroll through for 25 minutes and then watch Jeffrey Dahmer eat people. That's like the whole point of Netflix. America, apparently, Netflix served this option for America, where it's like everybody's favorite thing is to look at 600 options and then land on something about Ted Kaczynski. That's the brilliance of Netflix.
Drug dealers.
That's like what Netflix discovered.
Mafia. Yeah, I ended up watching a mafia documentary last night, which I've probably seen before, but where Giuliani ends up bringing down the mob there, and then when Rudy popped up, I fell asleep, and that was it. Even though at that time he was a different Rudy Giuliani. All right, that's number 2. Number 1 on the big board, 2023 Super Bowl.
And
sucks.
You know what's coming, Defo? We've talked about it before on the program.
I didn't see that one coming. I have to say.
The number one worst thing about the Super Bowl is Jackson Mahomes. There are people who are angry about the holding call because they feel like it cheated them out of the opportunity for the Eagles to have a dramatic finish, which maybe would have made it the greatest Super Bowl ever. There are people about the holding calls because they don't think it was a good call. I am angry about the holding call because it meant that Patrick Mahomes' jackass little brother got a chance to show up on national television. Here you see him standing behind his brother doing, I don't know, voguing. I don't know what the hell is.
What is that? Yeah.
Acting
like somebody
like
at a
an
Trump
asshole.
rally, this guy.
The
What
only
is that?
good thing, I honestly, if he shows up at a Trump rally holding one of those Blacks for Trump signs, I'm going to be 0% surprised. Exactly the level of jerk off that he is.
Yes.
It's the only good thing for me is that the rest of America discovered what a jackass Patrick Mahomes' little brother is. The bad news on this is we're going to have to spend the next year dealing with this. And I agree. Look, I think Patrick Mahomes, thank goodness, is well on his way to supplanting Tom Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time. I think he is going to make a run at that immediately after Tom Brady retires, and I think that's great. The bad news is that means we're going to spend another decade of his little brother and his wife annoying the hell out of everybody on social media. And I want to know what the hell Fox was thinking and the NFL Network were thinking, letting this jackass get in the camera shot while his brother gets interviewed.
Yeah.
Like, again, I love Patrick Mahomes. I even like the weirdo, 1980s hairband style haircut.
Yes.
I cannot stand his family. Like, at this point.
His dad seemed to be okay.
That's
Like,
fine. But his wife and his brother suck.
Like, at this point, if I'm hoping Patrick Mahomes signs a Nike deal, because I hope Phil Knight kidnaps his little brother and forces him to spend the rest of his life in a Chinese shoemaking camp. You want my brand loyalty? Ship Jackson Mahomes off to work with the Uyghurs for the rest of his life. Oh my God, this guy is the most like. Honestly, this guy makes Roger Clinton and Billy Carter seem like nice, normal, acceptable
brothers.
This is the worst tag-along little brother in the history of tag-along little brothers, and that is the Mount Everest of obstacles to climb.
Yeah, it was right up there with Eric Trump being on the panel there on The Apprentice, looking like a schmuck, and then later proving that he was one every time he opened his mouth.
I think he's surpassed Eric Trump. I think he's even surpassed that weird albino kid that Mitt Romney somehow had amongst his gang of ones that looked like cones. I can't name the Romneys because there's like 17 of them. But yeah, you know the one I'm talking about. The one
that whole Mormon thing.
You were like, how the hell is that part of the family? Like, again, Jackson Mahomes may be the worst celebrity player of all time, and that is a very steep hill to climb.
That's that's quite a distinction. All right, Professor, that's it. The big board, beautiful again. I mean, another brilliant rendition here. 2023 Super Bowl sucks, reprising a theme from 2022, which is where the big board originated a year ago. Congratulations on an amazing year of big boards, Professor, and we will just continue with this tradition.
Thought my anger and angst was going to burn out after like 4 weeks. Yeah.
No, I didn't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know how you do it, man. I mean, this is seriously brilliant. All of this stuff every week. So and look, who better than us to present it, right? Just ride your coattails to internet fame. It's going to be great. All right, Professor, beautiful stuff. You have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Everybody enjoy the XFL. See ya.
All right.
Man.
Wow, I forgot how great the professor was on the USFL. Was that last year?
Yes, he killed it last year. He was great last year.
Yeah, and Oliver Luck was like the commissioner.
Yes.
You were talking to him like it was serious business.
Yeah,
we should have just said, "Hey, Oliver. I mean, what's the over/under? Number of weeks before you're out of business."
Well, that's the thing. The XFL, I think, finished. They didn't. Remember, they like halfway through the season just
said, that's it. The crowds there are kind of like, and I hate to say this because we did enjoy our interview with Mike McIntyre, but the coach at FIU. But the crowds for the XFL, USFL games are very, very much reminiscent of what I saw this past year at the FIU games, especially when it was like treacherous rain going on as they were taking on the University of Texas San Antonio in a home classic. Let's bring up the gourmet here because we also have John Feinstein coming up at 9:00 here. So, wow, look what he did. He like dampened down. Did you put some water on your hair today, Mike Mayo? You look a little different. Yesterday, you had that kind of Don King thing going.
Well, first of all, I don't even know if I have a voice today. I woke up and
listen to you. Did you test yourself again?
I'm COVID negative, but I'm positive for this just chest cold, midwinter chest cold.
We'll sit on the opposite side of the table today when you're at Gulfstream. I always sit next.
Well, it's outdoors. I mean, I could stay away. I'm trying to get my voice, but it was a long, difficult night, and I guess no, I did nothing with my hair except I guess just the way I slept. Maybe did like that. So, anyway, good morning, gentlemen.
How are you, man? Are you okay? I mean, everything all right?
Well, it's weird, if you got to talk for a little bit every day, and you wake up and you have no voice, and now I have a little bit of Lubie in me. But you know what? I'm going to try to fix it. We're going to start something I didn't get to do on the lunchbox this week, but I figured for the Gambling Gourmet segment.
What are you going to drink? Some hot sauce now?
No, this is my hail to the Chiefs. I'm going to drink some Kansas City barbecue sauce.
Oh,
I don't have it. I don't have any Robitussin in the house, so I figured
I'd be careful with that, Michael. I mean, this is maybe an ill-advised experiment.
This might be
with the throat tickle thing working. I don't know if you want to be guzzling barbecue sauce. You have a picture of that, Lubie? This is my grandson's favorite thing that Mike Mayo does, and that is drink spaghetti sauce. That was a pretty good slurp.
Kansas City style.
How is it? Spicy?
It's good. It's got some of the molasses, but it's actually Tom's barbecue from
Tom's is good.
Florida.
No?
Yeah, it's got a nice Worcestershire kick. It's got that umami kick.
Yeah?
It's not too sweet. It's got a little bit of molasses. And you know what? I think it works better than Robitussin or NyQuil. So.
It probably is Robitussin.
Not suggest that to anyone.
Yeah. Robitussin has a particularly hideous taste, doesn't it? I mean,
it's bad, but I
kind
of
not
like
been able
it.
to perfect it at all. And it's not very effective on COVID. I can say that with 100% conviction.
I don't think Robitussin was ever meant to be a COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say anything about COVID on the label. Let's put it that way.
But
there's no reference.
Hey, that thing might have worked. It's kind of coated my throat. And
okay. No, you sound good. You sound good.
Better, yeah. Again, we are not prescribing this for any human other than the snake that is Mike Mayo. No one else do whatever the hell he's doing.
It's just amazing because for the people that aren't familiar, and you began this whole thing on this show as a Gambling Gourmet, and now, world renowned for Mike Mayo's lunchbox. But this is the sophisticated food critic for the South Florida Sun Sentinel for many years, and now a guy who's empowered with the thoughts and the influence of 99,000 people now, I would imagine. I mean, it grows by like 1,000 every week on that Let's Eat South Florida Facebook page. And then you really do. I mean, you put Joey Chestnut to shame.
No, I mean,
except
Joey,
for that feeble hot dog effort that you made when you thought you could eat like 20 dogs.
It was the potato rolls. That was a fatal error. That my lame attempt to try to eat 7 in 10 minutes, which seemed like a pretty reasonable goal. I'm going to be training better and harder, but no, I'm not. I'm no Joey Chestnut. Volume wise, I cannot put down the amount of food that he does as quickly as he does. But what I can do is unhinge my jaw and stuff these huge bites, half sandwiches in a single bite. But I would always I recommend that you guys bone up on the Heimlich maneuver, because one of these days we might be
it goes down like you can see it. It's like a pelican when a pelican dives in and gets a big fish and then gets back on the pier there, and you see it go boom. You see it going all the way down, or a snake, that swallows some otter.
The snake, the python. It's the
and you see the thing slithering all the way down to the stomach.
The hump.
It's kind of how it looks. I mean, when you do this stuff, like you will be doing today at Gulfstream, how much are you looking forward to being out there, Mike Mayo?
I always look forward to the Fridays at Gulfstream. It's nice to sit out in the fresh air and the breezes, and you see Luca's got mounts in the first 2 races, so I see a Luca Panici daily double.
I whiffed on that last week, so I see no.
Well, he's on a live one on the first. I think a 9-2 David Fox horse, and then he's got a long shot in the second. I'm gonna swing for the fence.
Luca.
Yeah, Luca.
See, I had another angle handicapped this morning on the can when I got my New York Post. I was looking at the Aqueduct entries, which begins an hour later now. Their post time is 1:20, which is good for me, because I don't have to leave the show physically for like 20 minutes while I get the result of the first race at the Duck. And I think I'm going to make an all Manny Franco semi-chalk pick 5, just straight Manny Franco, all 5 races. What are the odds of that?
Well, I mean, didn't what's his name win like 8-9 races? Irad Ortiz the other day at Gulfstream.
He won last week when we were out there. He won almost every race.
Yeah, he didn't win the first.
He didn't
race,
win the first. He won like
and
the
then
next
he won
7.
the next 8 in a row. Which was pretty incredible. And,
I mean, you would have thought you were watching Cordero at Aqueduct. It was great.
That was something. And then, of course, we've got the contest. I've already come up with this week's contest restaurant, so you're off the hook. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy this one. And I got so tomorrow's feature race is the Royal Delta. It's only got a field of 7, and it looks like it's a 2-horse race. There's 2 fillies in it that look like much the best. Should we do that, or should we go to like a 12-horse maiden special?
And give the people a shot here.
All right.
This isn't like the last leg of the Breeders' Cup pick 6, where you want it to be wide open and Art Kong blows up the board and ends up indicting 6 people as criminals. Because it was impossible to come up with this horse. I want the people to have a real good shot. If they get the restaurant, I want to have a real good shot at getting a horse. Yeah,
we dodged a bullet last week when like half the field of 10 scratched. There were only 5 live runners, and basically out of 41 entrants, only 1 person actually picked the winning horse.
That's what happens.
In a field of 5, if the second place horse ran, the second place horse was the post time favorite, and all the scratch people get the post time favorite, and then we would have had like a 40-way shake, which would have been. It's hard work making all those little names out on the slips and then having to pick hat on them.
You actually make out all the names, or you just like have one?
I do. Yeah, because printing out the emails, it's too much paper. It wastes too much of my copy paper. So I make these little slips with the names, and that's that.
Legitimate contest. I mean, that's good to know that we're running something legitimate on this show.
Yeah. Hey, so I wanted to go on a rant here about baseball and how bad they're fucking up the game. But
what do you think?
I mean,
but can it make it worse? At this point, that's a problem. Like
fucking horse shit. Well, first of all, we all know that it has a time element problem that the games are too long and everybody letting the batters go adjust their crotch like 25 times and letting the pitcher step off the mound.
Very important when hitting a baseball though to make sure you have your hands on your balls in between virtually every pitch. I played a lot of baseball at different levels.
So, but I don't like these things that are basically messing with the basic strategy of the game. Like if you've got a speedy base runner on, you've got to be able to hold him in check. You can't just limit a pitcher to just like pick off to 2 times because then a guy is just going to keep stealing on you all day.
Imagine Lou Brock knows you can't throw over to first base anymore.
It's fucking horseshit. And then along with these stupid things about limiting the shifts, you should be able to align your fielders any way you got.
Any way you want. I'm with you.
That's stupid. Okay. Here's my suggestions. Okay, I know what they're going to go to.
I think that's the most atrocious thing that they did by far of all of this rule change stuff, because I mean it's just accounting, or covering up the fact that their guys don't have the skill to play the game the right way.
And
I mean, you should be able to, if you want to put all 9 guys on one side along the foul line. I mean, you should be able to do it.
Do what you want, and if you're a slap hitter, you should be able to go the other way, whatever. Yeah. But, and I don't like this proposal for the extra innings to put a man on second base. It reminds me of the.
But they have been doing that.
They've been doing it,
They have.
Yeah.
That shows you how much baseball I've been watching.
Yeah. When was the last game you saw? The 60s.
I saw when probably Tim McCarver was.
See that infield with that's Boyer and Javier and Dick Groat and Bill White.
It's more. They did that last year.
I think it's been more than 1 year, right? It wasn't just last year, was it?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm really out of the loop.
You know what? I have to say this. At first, I was appalled by it, right? Being, somewhat of a baseball purist. But, and I thought, well, this is really stupid. But I don't mind it so much now, especially as a regular season commodity, because, those games that go into perpetuity where they play like 22 innings, are even worse. I mean, if you paid money to go to a game, you sat through 3.5 hours of this drudgery. They get to the 10th inning, and they're tied at 3 apiece. And if this goes on for like another 9 innings, it's not fun anymore. It becomes like total drudgery.
I used to have a blast at Shea when we would just keep drinking beer, and they go 18 innings and it go to 2.
Yeah, but it's a different world today, Mike Mayo. I mean, people, it's an immediate gratification world.
Here are my suggestions, okay? If you want to shorten the games to about 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is basically what it should be. And why can't we make that same rule for movies? Because some of these fucking movies now, 3 hours. And, a movie should never be more than 2 hours. You can tell your story in 2 hours. If you can't,
I haven't been to a movie in as long as you haven't been to a baseball game.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I like the movies. But, if you want to get your baseball games down to about 2:20, all right, here's my 3 very easy suggestions, okay?
All right.
3 balls is a walk instead of 4.
Oh, you're changing the game totally. Okay.
2 strikes and you're out.
Oh, interesting.
And 7 innings instead of 9 innings. Go to like the softball.
So we're just going.
Well, why don't they just
Very
bring
easy.
in?
Let people put whatever they want. Their fielders. Let however many pickoff attempts you want. 7 innings, 2 strikes and you're out. 3 balls and it's a base on balls. Okay, that's it. That'll shave off 30% right there.
You want to increase the size of the baseball also while you're at it? No, the diameter of the ball, just make it a little bit bigger so it's
7
easier to
innings.
hit.
It's very simple. 3 things: 7, 3, and 2. That's all.
All right,
7
you're playing
innings,
stick
3
ball,
balls.
kind of.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like
when you only had 3 guys, and you had to get the game moving along there.
Get it going.
I'm not buying those changes. I don't know that those are necessarily good. But it is weird how the game is sort of dissolved into the very thing that people despise, which was the whole Dave Kingman syndrome, where the guy was hitting 216, struck out 300 times a year, but hit 32 homers. So, you considered him a dangerous guy.
And the 15 pitching changes, lefty, righty.
Yeah,
blah,
Tony
blah,
La Russa.
I mean, that they gotta limit, like, only 2 pitches changes in an inning unless there's an injury. But then everybody would fake injuries, and so there's always ways around that. That's why you got to cut the game to 7 innings.
Not enough balls in play, though. Is really, I mean, that's what they have to figure. Even if they move the mound back, but then everybody would end up needing Tommy John probably because they're so used to the 60 feet 6 inches. But maybe that's no longer practical anymore. Remember when you moved back? I don't know if you did this, but Little League mound was like 40 feet away.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the first time you go and pitch off a regulation mound, even though that transition from like 12 to 13-year-old is not all that significant, except maybe in some areas. But, it's certainly not where it involves the arm and arm strength so much. But it was like, you felt like you were throwing from center field.
Yeah,
when you
it
made
was
that
a
move
long
back.
way away when you were young. So, hey, I know you got Feinstein coming up, so I'm gonna get out of the way. We'll see you at Gulfstream. Hopefully, my voice will recover.
I hope you're
by then.
okay, man. I mean, we don't want
say
you
hi to
spreading disease.
Feinstein for me, because we used to be together up in Augusta. Every year we had this big, players pool the Wednesday night before the Masters started.
You no doubt are running it, right?
Oh,
no. It was a great group of guys. It was like Dave Kindred, who was a great sports columnist, Feinstein, the guys from the Washington Post, and I don't know. I remember. Those were the days. It was a long time ago, but so I'm gonna get out of the way. I'll see you at Gulfstream, and I hope everybody has a beautiful morning.
Or something.
Oh, and Monday, we work on the lunchbox. I don't know what you guys are doing in the morning, but we're going to be feasting with Tom T, our friend Tom Tomazini.
Nice.
It's the day before Mardi Gras, but we're going to call it Fat Monday instead of Fat Tuesday. He's going to be cooking up a Mardi Gras feast on Monday at Copper Point Brewing, not his usual spot in Novo. It's about 100 yards north of the other brewery where he is in Boynton. But Lubie's in, I'm in. I think
I might have to roll up there to get some to-go stuff. That guy's got the best jambalaya, gumbo, red beans and rice, all of that stuff. I mean, it's so Bourbon Street in New Orleans. It's fantastic.
It's going to be huge. I love his food. And again, Mardi Gras, which is actually Fat Tuesday, is on Tuesday, but he's cooking up a storm this weekend in anticipation of the big day and carnival and all that stuff. So,
all right. Sounds good. We'll see you later on. Mike Mayo, the Mike Mayo Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today. Contest is on. Win that 10 Palms buffet for two. That is fantastic. That's like $100 in value. Plus, they throw in like tax and tip on top of that. But, we'd like you to schmooze the guy a little bit, huh? I mean, you don't have to be Jimmy Conway necessarily and come in and stick 100 in everybody's pocket, even though it was like 19, whatever that was. What was that, 70s? Yeah. I mean, a stick was a big tip back then, right? 20 was like a monster number. All right, we're going to come right back with John Feinstein. John Feinstein had a tweet out about Eric Bienemy, which was on the big board of Super Bowl Sucks from the professor. Somehow getting no consideration for a head coaching job, and the guy that he smoked in the second half of that game. Usually, if you're on a winning Super Bowl team, you are the most desirable of coordinators for the step up to a head coaching position. It's almost an automatic.
Well, we can talk
about
Kyle
Shanahan, who blew a Super Bowl, got a head coaching position.
Yes. What do you mean? Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator for 1 year at 36 years old under McVay, who clearly called the plays.
Yeah.
And got a head coaching job the next year after winning the Super Bowl.
It's amazing, man. I don't know what it is. I mean, this guy must be the worst interview.
I'm curious.
Does he even go on interviews anymore? I mean, he really has. He's had more rejections than Art Shell. He really has.
Yeah, Art Shell got a gig early at least.
Unbelievable. All right, we're coming back with John Feinstein in just a moment here. Stick around. A little overtime, a little bonus time coming up here on the Defo Show, Degenerate Friday. Later on, Mike Mayo and a lunchbox out from Gulfstream Park. That's always a lot of fun, where he's going to dive in, with both fists to a Luca daily double. Our good friend Luca Panici riding in the first and second race. Back with John in a moment. Now that 9 o'clock. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, And that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Not stupid. We're smart. We want respect. That's why we bring on gentlemen like this to add a dose of intellect to an otherwise bozoic show. I'm Jeff DeForest. He's Mike Lubie. It's 940 wins, 1230 The Zone around the world on the iHeartRadio app. This gentleman authored so much brilliance when it comes to the sporting world. We welcome to the show John Feinstein. First of all, how are you, John? Now, what aren't you doing? We may as well get into your projects here right away, because you keep busy, my friend.
Well, good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Lubie. It's good to talk to you guys. Thank you for having me on. And if I'm bringing a dose of intellect to the show, you really are in trouble. I will say that.
I can assure you that's a fact, my friend.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. We go into a little overtime here on a Degenerate Friday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie, and it is literally always a pleasure to welcome this gentleman to the program. Adds an element of distinction to the show that we otherwise could never even hope to achieve. As we welcome to the show, and we do like to say, and it is true, has written more books than we cumulatively had read lifetime. 100%. Especially, I know that on my end for sure, because the last book I read was Slugger in Right Field by Roger Maris, and I'm not sure how much. Yeah, how are you, John Feinstein? Good to bring you on the show.
Well, thank you. How are you guys?
We're doing well, sir.
We're doing all right, and it's interesting because part of the reason that we were inspired and lucky enough to get you on the program is because I guess you were exchanging tweets, which is very dangerous. Holy Elon Musk with Mike Lubie. Is that possible?
No, I just saw him put out a tweet about the NFL's hiring practices. Of the 5 open head coaching jobs, only 1 went to an African American. And Eric Bienemy, again, was not even really interviewed.
Does that, John, come as any surprise?
Not really, given the NFL's track record. It's not a big surprise. And it's funny. My son actually called me yesterday, and he said, "You got to stop responding to these tweets." The anger that my tweet and anytime I tweet or write about race, it engenders from white males, 99% of the time, isn't surprising anymore. It's disappointing. But it doesn't surprise me. And what I tweeted was, okay, they went and hired 2 more white coordinators, the last 2 hires, the Cardinals and the Colts. And here we are. We've gone from 4 black coaches during this past season to 3. And that's
progress.
Yeah. It's progress in one direction. You're right.
It's like Tom Selleck selling reverse mortgages. I mean, what Goodell is pushing with this equality thing.
Tom Selleck sells those things. So even if I thought they were a good idea, I wouldn't touch them.
It's not his first rodeo, as he states in the commercial. And I'm sure that he's been involved in other scams also. Yes.
He spent his entire career just clumping around, being, Mr. Good-looking guy.
Yeah. Great hair.
And same character, no matter what show he's in. But anyway, I digress. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The fact is, and then I get tweets from people saying, "Well, why don't you get upset about the fact that there aren't more white cornerbacks or white running backs?" Well,
because they're too slow. Yeah.
They can't play.
They run like Bernie Kosar. Yeah, exactly.
Hiring coaches, front office guys, that's something the owners decide, and it can be arbitrary. Sometimes it's not. But the fact is, the NFL, they've got this guy now they hired who's in charge of diversity or something, and he keeps putting out quotes through the NFL media, all of whom are, I don't know what to say. They just suck up to the NFL, I guess.
Yes.
And we're making great progress. Everything is really wonderful. And Goodell has his press conference at the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah, we're committed to diversity. No, they're not.
Nope.
I mean, that's just a simple fact. I mean, the owner of Carolina said when Steve Wilkes became the interim coach, if he does an extraordinary job, he'll have a chance to get the permanent job. Yeah. Well, all he did was take a team that was 1-4, traded its best player, released the quarterback they brought in to be the starter, and went 6-6.
Yep. It was amazing.
He had no chance to get the job. He had no chance to get the job, obviously. And Jim Caldwell had a winning record with the Lions. Do you know the last coach to have a winning record with the Lions?
Holy Milt Plum. That was the last time they had a winning record before Caldwell got there.
It was before Milt Plum. It was Tony Parker in the 50s. It was Bobby Lane.
That's actually the truth.
Bobby Lane had a leather helmet on. He was chucking the rock for the last winning Lions team.
Yeah. And people are acting. I'm blocking on the name of the current coach.
Dan Campbell. Yeah.
Lions Campbell, yeah.
They're acting like Dan Campbell's Vince Lombardi because he went 9-8.
Oh, well, because he eats a live boar before every game.
Yeah. But the garbage that is put out by the NFL propaganda machine, and there's no better propaganda machine in the world than the NFL, and is bought by the NFL media, and a lot of those guys are friends of mine. You remember a couple of years ago when they staged that bogus tryout for Kaepernick?
Yes.
In
Atlanta? Oh, yes. Yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah, and they wanted him to sign something saying that, the workout would be kept private and nobody could come in and watch except for scouts and all this other stuff. And he finally said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go to a high school on the outskirts of Atlanta, and I'm going to show everybody who shows up what I can do. Yep. And I went to a game that Sunday, and I walked into the press box, and I've been a supporter of Kaepernick since the beginning, as you guys know.
Yep.
And all my friends who cover the NFL regularly were like, well, what do you think of your boy Kaepernick now? And I was like, I think that he didn't want to be bullied by the NFL.
Yeah.
And there was no way anybody was going to sign him anyway. We all know that. And that's the problem is that, you keep reading about the NFL and how they're trying to make progress with diversity. And they've hired, I think there are now 5 or 6 team presidents. Team presidents have no power.
No, no one knows who they are.
Voting for the owner. I mean, they hired a guy named Jason Wright here in Washington, and you want Jason Wright to succeed. He's clearly a bright guy. He's articulate. He's African American, and he's nothing but a toady for Dan Snyder. Nothing.
That's annoying.
And it's the most. What's the most important job for an NFL team? The coach.
Yep.
Especially when he has input into the personnel with the GM.
Got John Feinstein with us here, and of course, I wrote the book "Raise a Fist, Take a Knee," and talked about the plight of African Americans, Black people in the National Football League. A lot of interesting character studies in that book. Another brilliant offering from John Feinstein. What did you make of this whole thing overall, though? I mean, there were a lot of strange aspects to the Super Bowl, including the fact that usually the offensive coordinator of the winning team, I mean, even if he blows a Super Bowl like Kyle Shanahan did, flat out is the sole reason why his team lost a Super Bowl game that they otherwise would have won in a walkover. He got a head coaching job out of it. So the very same defensive coordinator that Bienemy smoked with his whatever halftime adjustments he made that he was responsible for, if there were indeed adjustments, but they did obviously come with a different attack. While Philadelphia's defensive coordinator runs no blitzes against a hobbled Mahomes. And, essentially allows them to march right down the field and then run the same play at the goal line from opposite sides of the formation. And it worked both times to a wide open guy on what should have been a much more difficult scoring play. So he gets absolutely annihilated from a strategy standpoint by Bienemy, and that guy gets a head coaching job. Which, I mean, if that doesn't smack of what you're talking about.
Head coach, he might be. But you're right. You're 100% right. And the big excuse on Bienemy through the years has been, well, he doesn't call the plays. Andy Reid calls the plays.
Yeah.
Well, Doug Peterson didn't call the play for Andy Reid.
Yep.
And Matt Nagy didn't call the play for Andy Reid.
Yep.
And they both got head coaching jobs. And obviously Peterson's been very successful, won a Super Bowl, seems to be turning Jacksonville around.
Yep.
And Nagy actually went 12-4 one year with the Bears. And then he got fired. But the point is, and I've had people say, I've seen people tweet, people write, NFL writers write, well, maybe Bienemy hasn't interviewed that well. I interviewed Bienemy at length for Raise the Fist, Take a Knee.
Oh, wow.
I cannot believe he wouldn't interview well. He's bright. He's funny. He's a storyteller. He told me a bunch of great stories about his boyhood in New Orleans. And so I'm not buying that excuse. I'm not buying the lack of play calling. Now, he had some legal issues when he was younger.
Okay,
the last one was 22 years ago. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I have never had a DUI, but that's for the grace of God.
Yeah.
When I was Eric Bienemy's age, when I was 22 or whatever, I could have had a DUI every other night. And now I don't. I never drink and drive now. I think you learn as you get older. And I didn't learn the hard way. I was lucky.
Yep.
But,
right.
This notion that, well, he had a DUI 22 years ago, so he can't be an NFL head coach. Well, what about Mike Vrabel? Who was arrested, who was in bar fights and stuff like that. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be an NFL head coach right now. And why is he an NFL head coach and Eric Bienemy isn't? Because Mike Vrabel's white.
It does appear that the Rooney Rule has had the same impact as the now obsolete 3 knockdown rule in boxing, where they read the rules and they don't exist anymore, which was always one of my favorite things about broadcasting that sport.
Jeff, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, it's okay. No, it's great.
What the Rooney Rule has done, Jeff, is it's given the owners a smokescreen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look, we interviewed so-and-so, and we interviewed so-and-so, but then we decided to hire so-and-so. I mean, the best example was last year when Bill Belichick thought he was texting Brian Daboll.
Oh, yes.
Congratulate him on getting the Giants job, and sent the text to Brian Flores, who thought he was still a candidate for the Giants job. I can't knock the Giants for hiring Daboll. I think Daboll was probably
coach of the year.
But the point is, the Rooney Rule was just being used. Oh, we interviewed Brian Flores. We already decided to hire Brian Daboll, but we followed the Rooney Rule.
Art Shell's more likely to get a job, I think, than Bienemy at this point. From the grave.
And Art Shell might be a better hire than some of the guys who are out there.
Lubie's got one for you, John.
Fired, by the way, with a winning record, Art Shell.
He was, and that's actually the funny thing. Look, and I love that whole thing about the offense coordinator under offensive head coach, so he's not calling plays. Kevin O'Connell was 36 under McVay. There's no one that can watch the Rams and tell me that McVay is not calling the plays. He's highly involved in everything. He was the offense coordinator for 1 year, and he got total credit for doing nothing because I'm sure it was all McVay. And he got a head coaching job with the Minnesota Vikings, and he's doing a fine job. But again, Bienemy, look, this is the thing he's supposedly the route he's going to go, and I think it's totally unfair. You're Mr. Washington, D.C., the talk is that he's interviewing for the Commanders' offensive coordinator job. Do you think he should do that to get out of the shadow of this that he's been dealing with in Kansas City?
Personally, if Eric Bienemy asked me, which he's not going to, I would say run as far as you can from anything having to do with the Washington Commanders. It looks like he may get hired today.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
He's back interviewing this morning again. And my guess is that Ron Rivera is going to say to him, you call all the plays.
Yep.
And that would be appealing to Bienemy because of that argument that he doesn't call plays.
Yeah.
I think if Bienemy wants to leave Kansas City, where, he doesn't get credit for what Patrick Mahomes does and doesn't get credit for creating the offense, there are places he could go, a year from now or whenever, without getting involved in the Commanders, who, the new owner might come in, if there's a new owner, and, my lips to God's ears, and say, I don't want any of you guys. I want all you guys out. I'm bringing in my own people a year from now. And who knows? I mean, none of us knows what's going on with that team. And so my advice, if asked, would be don't go to Washington. You're too good to have to do that.
That's what I think, yeah.
But I think he's going to take it. My sense is, the reporting being done here in D.C., is he's going to take it so he can be the play caller, so that he'd be working at least as of now with a quarterback who started one NFL game. So if he has success, you can't say it's because Patrick Mahomes is a Hall of Famer or Andy Reid is a Hall of Famer, both of which, and they both are, by the way. So it's just, my colleague Kevin Blackistone wrote a column the other day in the Washington Post about Bienemy, and he made the point that Josh McDaniels was hired at 32 in Denver after being Tom Brady's offensive coordinator with Bill Belichick as the head coach. Washed out completely. Goes back to Belichick and Brady, has success with them, and gets a second head coaching job.
Yes, after bombing.
Sucks again.
The other thing is,
and buries another team. Yes, with talent.
Yeah, and they were terrible this year. Yeah. And the other thing on the back end is black coaches those who do get hired have a much shorter leash.
Yep.
The Houston Texans have fired black coaches after 1 year, 2 years in a row.
Yep.
Steve Wilkes was fired in Arizona after 1 year.
Yep.
That doesn't really happen unless you're completely incompetent like Nathaniel Hackett and you have new owners. But black coaches have much shorter leashes than white coaches. Lovie Smith got fired in Chicago after he'd gone to a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman as his quarterback, and his last season went 10-6,
yep,
and he got fired. Jim Caldwell, like I said, had a winning record in Detroit. Nobody has a winning record in Detroit, and he went to the playoffs twice in Detroit, and yet he can't get another job. And it's so blatantly obvious. It's statistically obvious. It's obvious to our eyes. And yet, the NFL sits there and says, "Oh, well, we're doing a great job," and all the NFL writers.
Everything's good. Yeah. No, I saw that Goodell. I'm a big fan of the Goodell State of the Union address at the Super Bowl because it does seem like, well, I mean, for him at $64 million a year to do what he's doing, it has to be just an absolute pleasure cruise. But no, I mean, it did seem like they glossed over a lot of stuff. They did. Including the officiating issue, which continues to be an atrocity. I think Bienemy needs like Barry Scheck because his fate kind of reminds me, especially if he does take this sort of parallel move here to go to Washington, where he doesn't have near the talent, but needs to sort of get out of the stigma that he's not the man that's actually in charge, which, as you said, John, this would establish. But he's like that guy that the DNA evidence has already exonerated. Yep. But he's still in prison somehow because, and Scheck is there every day in front of the cameras going, this is a travesty of justice. How is this man still incarcerated? He's innocent. I'm telling you, he's innocent. And, he just doesn't end up getting a shot.
But the thing is, yes, the enemy's sort of become the symbol of this. Yep. But there are a lot of other very good black coaches who get passed over. They get interviewed for the room.
And Brian Flores would come to mind.
Frazier with the Bills had one stint and is never going to get another freaking job again.
Well, and I'm blocking again on a name, but the guy who was the Tampa Bay coordinator, Leftwich, Brian Leftwich.
Oh yeah, Brian Leftwich. He's been knocking on his door supposedly forever.
Fired.
Yeah,
it's like his fault.
And Todd Bowles gets the job, and he was never overwhelmingly inspiring to me as a head coach. Todd Bowles, Lubie liked him at one point, but I think we saw he almost looked detached from what was going on the sidelines.
Yes, that's almost like winning a Super Bowl, going 10-6 with the Jets. Ryan Fitzpatrick as the quarterback.
Well, and to your point too about how they don't give these guys much leeway. I mean, Flores, is told, and I don't know, where this eventually went in terms of substantiating it, but it seems believable that Stephen Ross, whether he was joking or not, as he later kind of alluded to, told this guy, listen, we just hired you. You finally cracked through all of these barriers here. I mean, and you're a minority head coach in the NFL. This is your first job. You got to prove yourself, but I want you to lose every game. And I'll tell you why. In fact, here's like $100,000. Just go ahead and lose every game. And, he won remarkably that year, 5 games.
Miami. You guys are in Miami, so you know better than I. But if you were sitting on a jury and you had to believe Brian Flores or Stephen Ross, who would you believe?
Well, I mean, that's an easy one. It's like you, having to testify about the credibility of Dan Snyder.
Well, no, Dan Snyder is actually better because he's always lying.
Yeah, right. It's a Trumpian thing.
gotten it since he was bar mitzvah.
All right, I have to get this one thing in for you. I appreciate your time, John, and then any current projects you have going, we want to know about. But the halftime show largely being panned. I mean, again, speaking to the hypocrisy of Goodell, we understand that they're encouraging new blood to come into the league there, and Rihanna might attract that. But the fingering of the vagina, our man Phil Mushnick was particularly upset about this this morning. He's not a big Goodell fan, as you probably could deduce easily from reading any of his columns. I don't think he goes one without mentioning how much he despises Goodell's hypocrisy. But what did you think of that? I mean, we were trying to figure out, what were those guys that were in the dance crew dressed as spermatozoa? What was your reaction to that? Because
I took a shower at halftime.
You needed one after watching this thing, man. Such filth.
Usually my wife watches it, but she fell asleep.
That's funny.
Oh, wow.
So I'm the wrong person to ask. But if Phil says it's true, it's true.
Oh, Phil, scathing indictment.
Phil and I covered soccer together 40 years ago.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how old we both are.
Wow.
But if Phil says it's true, it's true.
Phil has maintained that same, approach that, would be typical of a guy, that maybe, was approaching, 70s, 80s or whatever. He's maintained that, that the curmudgeon kind of style of writing.
Yes,
where he's kind of bitter about everything, which I love.
He was
one reason why we got along.
Yeah.
but let's be serious. I mean, I when Roger Goodell first got the job, I was all for him. He was the new sheriff in town. I didn't think Paul Tagliabue did anything for however many years he was the commissioner. I think he just showed up.
He stayed out of the way, yeah.
Went to the TV network, said, "Give me more money." They gave him more money, and then he went back and did whatever he did. Goodell came in. He was trying to, pursue some discipline when players screwed up, and he was outspoken on issues. And then the Ray Rice thing happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's been the same since the Ray Rice thing happened, because he got attacked, and then he tried to recover. And it was one of those deals where the cover-up ended up being worse than the crime, which happens all the time.
Yep.
Right.
And now he still looks great in a suit.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing that earns him the $44 million a year. And he does what Tagliabue does. He goes to, now he's got more TV networks to deal with, and he goes and says, "Give me more money." And as long as they're giving him money, the owners are happy.
The only guy with an easier job, I think, is King Charles, maybe. Where they come with wheelbarrows full of cash, jewelry, whatever he needs. I mean, Sepp Blatter didn't have as many people coming after him with cash as Roger Goodell does. Only in this case, it's being distributed. Yeah, and he's making a pretty coin. Overall, though, I thought it was a very entertaining NFL season. What do you think, John?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
I liked some of the storylines. I liked the Chiefs winning because I like the Chiefs. I like Andy Reid. I like Eric Bienemy, and I like Patrick Mahomes. The Eagles were a good story. The Giants were a terrific story.
Yep.
The Dolphins made the playoffs down there. Even though they lost their quarterback, and there's certainly questions about his career going forward, which is so unfortunate. But sure, I mean, the NFL's issue to me is not entertainment. They are entertainment. That's why people watch the NFL so much. That and gambling.
Yes.
The NFL's issue to me is that they cover everything up. I'll tell you one quick story and let you guys go.
Sure.
I did a magazine on Goodell. I want to say it was 2008. It was a long time ago. And it was mostly a puff piece. New sheriff in town, doing things others hadn't done, blah, 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 blah. Well, it was for a magazine. And there was a long lead time. Like I wrote it in August and it was coming out in October. And a few weeks before the piece was supposed to come out, the editor called and said, "Hey, there's a story in the New York Times about the NFL and CTE.
Oh.
Would you ask Goodell? Can you ask Goodell one question about it?"
Let's drop that in, sure.
So I said, sure. And I contacted, who was the NFL's PR guy before McCarthy? He was a good guy, or still is, I assume. But I contacted him and I said, "Hey, can I get on the phone with Roger, ask him one quick question about CTE?" email came flying back. New York Times put this whole thing up. This is a non-story. Roger's not going to address this. How dare you even ask?
Oh, my God.
And obviously, the New York Times didn't make anything up.
Nope.
And that's the NFL's response to everything. Cover up, cover up, cover up, cover up. And that's what they're doing with the coaching situation.
Yeah, I mean, we had that experience with Nowitzki, the guy that first came out with this stuff, the Harvard guy that's been doing so much, in that regard. And we remember being on the Radio Row, and no one wanted to talk to this guy. He had like a little pamphlet out about CTE, and he was almost begging people to come talk to him. Or allow him on the shows, and we were desperate for a guest, so we had him on, and we actually ended up becoming somewhat friendly with him. And I mean, when you look at it over the years, my God, they just all of these pro sports entities turned a blind eye to it, though, for far too long. Especially, egregious the NHL.
We're talking NFL here, but and I like Adam Silver a lot, but his whole response to the China thing a couple of years ago,
that was brilliant. Yeah, y'all got to have sneakers. Yeah, can't play the game in shoes.
With the Astros thing, saying, "Well, it's just a piece of metal." The World Series.
What a maniac!
I mean, come on.
He's become a disappointment.
I don't know where Gary Bettman is. I saw him on the side of a milk carton recently, but he's been collecting money from the NHL now for 30 years.
Yep.
Oh, he's a great one, man. Totally. They had like James Woods as the league physician, talking about from any given Sunday, talking about the issue. And no, nobody. I mean, we don't even need helmets, so we just do that as an extra extraordinary precaution.
Nice.
What do you have going, John? You're always working on something, man. You make me very envious as I sit around thinking, geez, I should go take a nap after the show. But you're always busy. What do you have working?
I'm going to go take a nap. Actually, I just recently finished a book on David Faraday.
Oh, nice.
That's right. You were telling us about that. That's got to be great. When's that? And it's out? Or
it'll come out May 9th. Okay. And I hope you guys will have me back on then.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. You're always welcome. I know that.
Thank you. David's story is unique. I mean, grew up during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Was a very good player in Europe. People forget that.
Yes.
Because he talks about his game like he's a 10 handicapper. And was on the European Ryder Cup team, beat Payne Stewart in the singles during the famous War by the Shore in Kiowa. Was a functioning alcoholic, has been a functioning alcoholic basically his whole life. Had a horrible first marriage, lost a son to a drug overdose 5.5 years ago now. But remains as entertaining and as funny a person as you'll ever meet, and became a big star on television, as we know. And it's just his wife, Anita, the first date they ever had. I won't give the whole book away, but the first date they ever had, he showed up drunk. And
nice.
She got up and left.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, why did you go out with him again? And she said, because through, even through the alcohol, I saw a kindness in him, her word. And I just thought that that it was worth a second chance. They've been married 27 years now.
Wow.
But the point being that, and she made an interesting comment. She said, David's gotten a lot of mulligans in life because of that. And in researching the book, I found that to be true, that people see him as not only a kind person, but as somebody, Rory McIlroy said, David is at his best when he's focused on someone other than himself. That's his best self. And there are a lot of examples of that in the book. There are also a lot of funny stories. Yeah,
his interview show on the Golf Channel was great. I loved watching those programs. Yeah, he really was terrific at it.
Golf.
Yeah. Yes, I mean the variety of it, the level of depth that he got out of the people was great, and he did it in his own kind of amusing way of bringing things out of people, which was great. And as a commentator, I mean, I was a big fan of Gary McCord, but I think Faraday, as you said, he kind of brought that everyman Shankopotamus viewpoint to it, and was able to illustrate the game, to people that understand what it's like to duck hook everything, like you were Gronkowski in that FanDuel kicking competition.
And it was Gary McCord, by the way, who is one of Faraday's closest friends, who brought Faraday to CBS.
And a great move, yeah.
He more or less discovered David.
Yeah, he's great. I really enjoy. I'm looking forward to the book. I hope we can schnorr for a copy. Because money's a little tight since we moved to the video streaming. But no, I mean it's going well, and you helped make this possible. So we certainly appreciate you coming on the show anytime, John. And
Well, I'm happy.
thanks so much for being with us. I'm glad you're on Twitter.
Stay on Twitter. Don't listen to your
son. Stay on Twitter. Don't let these bums suck out of making your statements. It's always good too that the Proud Boys are dominating Twitter. As they're on trial, they're worried about what you're saying about the NFL coaching situation.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. and it can't possibly be that race is involved, because race has never been a problem in our country.
Never. Oh no, not here.
It only dates to 1619.
Exactly.
Well, we've gone backwards, if anything. I mean, we're here in Florida, man, under the auspices of Ron DeSantis,
that's the point.
who wants every kid to have a gun in his hand, but doesn't want you to read about Roberto Clemente. I mean, come on. What are we talking about here? A banana republic, if there ever was one.
That's why I would say he's your governor.
He is.
Well, not ours, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. Tallahassee's a long way from South Florida, as you know.
That's very true.
All right, thanks.
Drive, I know.
Yeah, but it's like centuries away in terms of thinking.
I know.
Stone Age
I've
up
been there, and I've done that, and I've driven through Central Florida too.
Same thing. Anything north of Palm Beach, maybe even a little bit into Palm Beach. All right, John, we love you, man. Thanks so much. Appreciate you coming on the show. It's always a pleasure, my friend. And can't wait for the new offering to be out there on the market.
And we'll talk soon, John.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, John Feinstein, man. That Faraday book sounds like it's going to be good.
Oh, it sounds great.
I'm a big fan of Faraday. I really enjoyed his work. As a guy that dabbled in TV, as we're doing now. Which I guess this is the wave of the future, right? Bally's welching on all of those Major League Baseball contracts. And now what? Teams are going to be left to streaming their games? Is that what's going to happen? Or is somebody going to come in and pay the freight and they're going to broadcast all of their games on TV? What do you think? The Marlins are impacted by that. How upset will you be, Lubie, if you can't watch losing Marlins baseball every day?
Well, that's the thing is, and I think a lot of people were commenting on this, I haven't been able to watch the Marlins in 4 years. I mean, whether it was Fox Sports Florida or Bally's, my Hulu TV doesn't get the Florida networks.
Okay.
And the sad thing is for the Marlins is I haven't missed it. I missed it. I didn't even know.
Every time I tuned in, I either caught them while they had a slight lead and they were about to blow it, or they were just getting bludgeoned. Last year it was rough. The Panthers actually had a pretty good win last night on the road against an Ovechkin-less Capitals team, but they're fighting, as Steve Goldstein, our good friend, said. Every game from here on out is tantamount to being a playoff game. But no, they rallied at the end of the game. They were about to choke the game away. What's that?
They're not tied with that same Washington team. Yeah. They're not tied with them for a playoff.
It was a big swing game there. Everybody was talking about how important it was. They're up 4-1 late in the game, inside of 5 minutes to go in the third. They give up 2 goals. And then, they managed to score on an empty netter, and then they put it away with a subsequent empty netter later on. But essentially that first empty netter was it. And it became 5-3 with like a minute or so to go in the ball game or in the hockey game. All right, we're going to run. We'll see you at 12 o'clock out at Gulfstream Park. Lubie, great job. Thanks to all of our guests on the program today. See you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:35.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.